Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of Ballin in the Boot. And kicking us off tonight, or I guess like today, whenever you're watching this, basically, is Isharay Jones. Isharay, you're going to get us kicked off with the show. So you're the first person up. And we're going to talk about an exciting Baton Rouge matchup, Isharay, on Friday. Madison Prep and Southern Lab. These are two of the more athletic teams in the Baton Rouge area. And both these two teams are always going to be in contention for a state championship and a deep playoff run. So a lot of talent that you got to see on the field, Isharay, and get a chance for us to break this one down.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I mean these are two really good programs, and really, Isharay, it seems like Mass and Prep's got Southern Lab's number. I mean, for whatever reason, I mean, I believe that's
Yeah,
six straight wins for
it's
Mass and Prep
crazy.
over Southern Lab, and there's been a lot of close games, but Mass and Prep hasn't been able to win this game in the last 6 years.
Yeah. That score is not definitive how the game went. That game was crazy. I honestly thought Southern Lab was about to run away with it up until like the start of the fourth quarter. And even at the start of the fourth quarter, I really thought Southern Lab was about to win by like 20, maybe 30.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
and
how the game started.
right, right. Obviously, a lot of points on the board, on the scoreboard. I mean, two good quarterbacks. I mean, Tylen Johnson from Mass and Prep,
Yes,
and
sir.
or
Jerry
ground ball for
Botley.
the week. Yeah, Jerry Botley. So,
Yes,
how did you
sir.
think about those two quarterbacks performed on Friday?
They both played really good. They both used their legs a lot throughout the whole game. And they both had about, I think they both had two rushing touchdowns for their teams.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah,
both big on that though.
yeah, like dual
Jerry
threat.
Bodley was Yes, sir. Yeah, Jerry Bodley was good on helping his team get up to a high lead, and Tyler Johnson, he was good on helping his team come back and win.
Okay, you were there, Ashray. Kind of give us the game flow. So, like, how did this game kind of all come about?
So they started off there was no like extra point attempts throughout the whole game, which was kind of odd for me. But today I just went for two the whole game, and so I believe Southern Lab scored first, and then Massive Prep went and scored right back like a minute later. Massive Prep got the ball right back and scored back-to-back touchdowns, so it's 12-6. And after that, Southern Labs went on a big run, honestly. And they got up 24-12 or 20, yes, or 26-12, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
And that was really just how the game went for the rest of the game until the fourth quarter. And even at the start of the fourth quarter, Madison Prep threw a pick like in the end zone. So it's just like everything was over for them, but they just started coming back. And especially players like Alfred McKnight, their running back, they just
Yep.
all kept fighting and kept fighting. You could tell it's a big rivalry game. The players are definitely into it with each other. So they just kept fighting, and then they scored 24 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, and they were able to
Wow.
win.
That's crazy. Now I'm just looking at the game flow in your article that you wrote about the game. I mean, go up 26-12, and considering how Southern Lab's offense can be and how dangerous they can be, and to be shut out after that, and really Mass and Prep just storming back to win this game. Um, I mean, how shocked were you about that? Not only was Mass and Prep able to come back and win this,
So,
but really shut them out the rest of the way.
yes, I was very, very shocked. But after McKnight's first touchdown run of the fourth quarter, I kind of knew that they were going to come back. I knew they had all the momentum because you could just feel the whole shift, and they had much less people in their side of the crowd, but you could just tell the momentum shift. Like the players, they feel like they were going to go out and win, and then Southern Lab, they just remain stagnant, just giving the ball right back to them every time, penalties messing them up. And so by the last touchdown, they couldn't stop them. Just
Yeah.
kept on going.
Yeah, kind of. It's been weird. This has been a weird week with fourth quarters because when I was covering the St. John North Iberville game, which I'll talk about later on the show, I mean North Iberville was going into the game up 26-8 in the fourth quarter,
Really?
and they had to come back and win it. Because they gave a 20 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, and you looked like okay, it looked like Southern Lab was going to win this game heading into the fourth quarter, and you give up 24 unanswered points. So it's
Sir.
insane there. I know we talk about Alfred McKnight. Is a player that you wrote about, a dominant rep
Yes,
that you wrote
sir.
about. And who are some other guys that really caught your eye? I guess on both teams. So who are some guys that really impressed you on Friday
I
night?
think the two most impressive, not counting McKnight, were both the quarterbacks on. So you could just see two high-level quarterbacks competing and not giving up, just scrambling all the time, making really good throws when they need to. They are the two that most impressed me, honestly.
Yeah, and yeah, all five touchdowns they
Yes,
scored were
sir. Yes,
rushing
sir.
touchdowns.
Sir.
Yep, and that's insane
Straight
because
rushing touchdowns.
yeah, right. And then Amorion Asbury, who's actually the Southern commit, and actually, which is Darryl Asbury's son. He
Okay,
played
okay.
running back for Southern Lab, and you saw him throughout that game, and Trevor Norman, guys like that. So,
So
I mean, this game, I mean, it seemed like it was insane. Like to have
very
that many
insane.
ebbs and flows, and for Southern Lab to have that type of lead and Madison Prep finding a way to win. Now, after the game, who are some? I mean, I'm sure you got a chance to talk with Coach Landry Williams and maybe a player or two. So, who are some people that you talked to after the game?
I was only able to talk to Alfred McKnight about the game, and I was asking questions about how he thought it went, how they would play next week, how they were able to just throw 24 straight unanswered points in the fourth quarter. And he was adamant on how he believes in his whole team, how they continue to come back like that. And they just never gave up and they continue to fight. You could just tell how much this game meant to them. This is definitely a big rivalry game.
Madison Prep had a slow start to the season. I know they lost for
Yes,
their
sir.
first couple of games. I mean,
I
they
believe they
started
started off 0-3.
0-3. Yeah, they did. So they
Sir,
started off 0-3, and one of those games they played was undefeated 5A Mandeville. So
that's
like, I
crazy.
mean that was a tough team to play, and it was a tough start. I mean, they lost to Southside, another 5A team. So sometimes when you're like that 2A 3A team, and you're a really good like 3A team, there's not a lot of teams at your classification that want to play you. So you're going to be pretty much forced to play a lot of these 5A teams, but three straight wins now for this Madison Prep team, and it looks like, I mean, talking um, to your guy after the game, talking to the running back as well. It seems like to Alfred McKnight. It seems like that this team is heading in the right direction and putting a couple wins together. One together, and it looks like this confidence is coming back from this team.
So I think those early games were important. Although they lost, I still think it's important because they're playing kids with, bigger schools, so more competition,
Mhm.
higher level competition for them. I think it's important, even though it's okay to lose because they're still undefeated in district right now and they're on
Yeah.
3 game streak, starting to heat up. But those are 3 important games, though. That definitely helped them to help them learn. You can't win every single game. You got to learn from losses like that, especially against a team like Mandeville. Ever since then, the last 3 games, they're building up, building up, building up. Now they're on the run. If these district games keep going, which are the most important games for getting towards the playoffs, anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's when you want to play your best football. You want to play your best football towards the end of district play,
So,
going into the playoffs. So, I mean, that's where you want to be at that
so
point. And we'll see what the Chargers do down the road. And I still find it hard to believe. I actually covered this game last year. It was on a Thursday. It was a low scoring game, and Madison Prep was able to win. Uh, but it's going to be interesting to see what his team does because like district plays ramping up. Even though this was technically a non-district game, still against Southern Lab, you still got Parkview Baptist coming up, and everybody Port Allen. But at the end, everybody knows where this district's going through, and it's going through U High
so
November 1st. So, yeah, well, I mean, just this team. A little bit surprised, right? That 6 straight wins. I mean, as good as Southern Lab, like they state championship team, they won 2 of the last 3 state championships.
it's crazy.
Um, yeah, I mean, how surprised were you hearing that stat that it's been 6 straight wins for Madison Prep in
And
this
no,
year?
honestly, that's crazy. I didn't know that prior to coming to the game, so I couldn't tell that Southern Lab had lost 6 straight to them. I couldn't tell. They looked like the better team for the first 3 quarters. They just looked
Mhm.
like they were dominating them on offense, on defense. Not really so much special teams, but they were just dominating most of the game. You couldn't tell that they had lost 6 straight. They kept fighting.
Yeah, and hopefully Southern Lab can bounce back. They were undefeated before. Hopefully, we don't have a gridiron football curse going around because you got the Madden curse and you got all these curses going on, like the Madden cover curse.
It's
Um,
a
I mean, Jerry Bobby won our gridiron football player of the week, and ever since the Kittens have lost. So hopefully, that curse can come to an end for them
it's
moving
a
moving forward. But they're a really good team, and when you are a defending state champion, you're going to get everybody's best shot, no matter what. So we'll see how Southern Lab bounces back. And I want your thoughts because I know you're from Texas and you've actually got a chance to see this game. I know you're pretty excited once I told you that this game was actually being played at Mumford Stadium,
Yes,
home
sir.
of the Southern Jaguars. So, what was that like being on the sidelines and being in a college stadium and getting a chance to cover a game in a college stadium?
It definitely caught me off guard, especially before the game because the lights had blacked out and then they played a hype video, like a lot of Louisiana rap music going on, and
Uh,
then the colors, like the green colors for the kittens came on, they were flashing. I was surprised.
uh,
It felt like a college game. Like this really had a college game atmosphere. It was insane. Their half of the stadium that was packed out for all their fans. It really caught me off guard before the game.
Yeah, we'll see how Southern Lab responds. They are 3-2. They won their first three games, back-to-back losses. One was against a 5A team in Denham Springs, 38-12, and then 36-26 loss to Madison Prep. And next week they got Kaplan on the road, and then they got a home game against Kentwood. That is going to be a big game too. That's always a classic game between two programs at the small school levels that won a lot of state championships between the two. So that's going to be a really fun one. Darryl, your overall thoughts before we wrap up on this matchup, on this game, any other notes that we haven't talked about? Your overall thoughts about this game?
My overall thoughts, this game, like I can kind of compare this game to a basketball game, how the 3-point shots really made it a game of runs. This really felt like a basketball game, how just a quick rushing touchdown just made it a game of runs, how it started off with the momentum from Madison Prep, and then it went to Southern Labs momentum for the whole game, and then Madison Prep just finished up with all the momentum by the area end. It really felt like a basketball game in that sense.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely,
sir.
man. Well, keep up the good work, Isharay. Keep up the good work, and we'll talk next week, and we'll talk about the next game that you're covering here for Ball in
Yes,
the
sir.
Boot.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, guys, to another segment here of Ballin' in the Boot. We just talked with Isharay, and he broke down interesting game with Madison Prep being down 26-12, and actually coming back and scoring 24 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to beat Southern Lab. Well, talk about insanity and craziness. Obviously, LSU Ole Miss was insanity on Saturday. Obviously, we're going to talk more about that on the Chase with Jace. But let's talk about the other Baton Rouge college football team that also had themselves a dandy, and that was Southern getting a 22-19, also an overtime victory over Texas Southern. A lot to bring, and we also have another high school game we're going to talk about, which also has some pretty cool headlines as well. Alex, you've definitely had a pretty busy weekend with some very interesting football, but we're going to start with the Southern Jaguars first. Give us the game flow of what was an insane win for the Jaguars.
Yeah, this was a weekend of a pair of honestly two of the dumbest football games I've ever watched. Like the funniest football games I've ever seen in terms of just irrational, makes no sense. Anything you would expect to happen didn't happen. But let's start with Southern. The thing I would start with is the eerie similarity to the game flow, and almost like as if this were like a script to a movie. To the Prairie View game 2 weeks ago that I covered, or 3 weeks ago because of the bye, 2 games ago, where literally, and I'll talk about this beat for beat, almost the exact same football game, and almost to the point where, like, if these were movie scripts, this one would get thrown out because it was too similar to this movie that already came out. Okay, so the big talk for both teams going into the game was the quarterback situation. Who was going to start at quarterback for Texas Southern? Who was going to start at quarterback for the Jags? Texas Southern starts with the ball. Jace Wilson, I know, name that you would love.
Yeah. And we were already starting off pretty strong if they chose a Jace to be the quarterback. So
wasn't the quarterback that I had talked about in the preview. So he hadn't had the most playing time this season, but he got the start. He played the entire game. That wasn't the interesting one. The interesting one, as we have covered all season, is the Southern Jags. Zay T-Set dressed for the game. Everyone was expecting him to play. Everyone was expecting him to start. He talked at the press conference, which, off the record in my head, I'm like, okay, so he's going to play, right? If he's at the press conference, I kind of assumed that. And then he doesn't start. Noah Bowden starts. Noah Bowden Bowden.
Yeah.
Get the name right, Alex. And so everyone is watching, okay, Zay's dressed, Zay could play, but he isn't playing. What's the deal? So is there a question of, like, is he not 100%? Do they still feel like they have a better shot with Noah? What's the deal? And then after the first quarter and a half of maybe every single drive being a punt, maybe there was like a turnover thrown in there or something like that, but it was punt, nothing happening. This was the first time I was live tweeting for one of these games that I wasn't like I was just tweeting the updates. And I felt so bored. I was just like, yep, and this is a punt, and the ball is now here for like 10 tweets. And so I'm like, okay, well, nothing's happening. And then Zay T-Set comes out. 6 minutes left to go in the half. And it was a surreal experience because it was the shortest lived celebration of all time. Because literally a second and a half after I realized that Zay was in the game, he had already thrown a pick six.
Oh, okay.
I was because it's a live stream. I wasn't at the game because it was on the road. I'm sitting down or whatever as they cut back from commercial with the Jags with the ball. And I look up and I'm like, oh wait, the guy throwing the ball is left-handed. Zay's in the game. Oh no, it's a pick. Oh god, it's a touchdown. No, that was literally like that. By the time you realized and internalized that Zay T-Set was back in the game, the Jags were down 7-0.
Wow.
So he stays in the game for 2 more drives, and both of those 2 drives end in turnovers. So he's in the game for 3 drives to end the half, 3 turnovers. Pick, Kobe Dillon fumbled, I believe, and then, I think it was Kobe Dillon, and then finally with like a minute to go, still down 7-0, Zay goes out there and gets strip sacked. Texas Southern recovers on like the 20-yard line for Southern, and one like reverse play, and it's a touchdown. And Texas Southern, despite the fact that they haven't put together a drive the entire game, is up 14-0 at halftime. Shockingly similar to the Prairie View game. In Houston, Southern has nothing going offensively, and they're down 14 points. What are they going to do? Well, what they do is in the second half, Noah Bowden comes back out onto the field. We don't see Zay for the rest of the game. And it's one of those games where you go into it, he's a game-time decision, is he fully healthy? And you come out of it wondering if he was fully healthy.
Yeah, right.
Because he didn't show up the rest of the game, and he just didn't quite look right. So hopefully that'll, another week, maybe he'll get better. We'll see. And then Noah goes out there, and just like the Prairie View game, the offense is all of a sudden clicking again. I don't know what Coach Graves said out of halftime, but they came out there and they looked like a different team. The offense is now moving the ball. They're finally putting drives together. They get, I believe, 3 consecutive drives to start the third quarter that all end up in the red zone. So, they are moving the ball down the field. And again, like the Prairie View game, they're struggling to actually claw back on the scoreboard. In this case, it was field goal, penalties, force a punt, field goal, and then at the very end of the third quarter, they finally complete a drive, and Kendrick Grimes scores a touchdown to make it 14-12. The conversion is not converted, and that is our score going into the fourth quarter.
Okay.
So the Jags clearly are back in the game, but despite the fact that by the end of the third quarter, they were outgaining Texas Southern by 150 yards of offense, they were still trailing.
Yeah.
So we get into the fourth quarter, and the defenses kind of take back over. And I guess a side note, something that I is going to get lost in the insanity I'm about to talk about, but the defense was back, right? I talked about how we were trailing. Southern was trailing 14-0 at halftime, but the offense, the defense was still actually doing a really good job of stopping the flow of the opposing Tigers offense and their fairly vaunted running game, which was a concern after what Nichols just did to the Jags, right?
Right.
Defense is back. Until the fourth quarter, there really wasn't a drive that Texas Southern put together at all. Fourth quarter, they finally start actually moving the ball down the field, gaining some kind of rhythm. Texas Southern does on offense. And late in the game, they kick a field goal to make it 17-12. Southern looks like they get, one more chance. They're down by 5 with about 5 minutes left. 3 and out. They punt the ball, and now everyone's worried. Okay, Texas Southern's going to drive down, kick another field goal to make it an 8-point lead. That doesn't happen. They end up basically getting pulled back a little bit. But for the first time in the fourth quarter, Texas Southern is actually putting together first downs.
Mm-hmm.
Important. Keep that in mind for later. So Texas Southern, the drive stalls. They end up punting in fringe field goal territory.
Okay.
To pin the Jags back to the 10-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
For all intents and purposes, 99 times out of 100, this is your ball game. 2 minutes to go, 2 timeouts, down by 5, 90 yards to go.
Mm-hmm. It's tough. Tough to
really tough. First play. Looks like it is a completed pass for a 8-10 yard gain. Call back for holding. Second play. Noah drops back. Looks like he's going to get sacked in the end zone for a safety. Barely gets the ball out to nobody.
Mm-hmm. Which is?
Still a safety because it's intentional ground.
Correct.
So in 2 plays, Southern looks like we go from Southern looking like they have this chance to be clutch and heroic, just like they were in that Prairie View game. And in 2 plays, it's over. It's over. I remember having to tweet out the safety, and I almost tweeted out the words, "This game is over." And I, at the very end, spliced in the word "basically," just to hedge slightly.
Just to make sure that something's about to say happens.
Because in my head, I'm like, okay, well, technically, they can, they're going to, kick the ball, punt the ball. If they get a 3 and out, they can get the ball back with 20 seconds left. But, I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think Texas Southern also thought the game was over because the way they played after that point, it felt like they were completely disengaged. And that is the only explanation I can come up with for the absolutely bat crap insane confluence of events. So, step 1, it's a safety, which means it's a kickoff, but it's a kickoff from the 20-yard line, which is one of the many problems with a safety happening is the fact that the opposing team that gets 2 points and the ball back almost always has great field position because it's a kickoff, but from 15 yards further back than it normally is.
Mm-hmm.
So kickoff happens, and you're expecting, okay, they're gonna recover the ball, they're gonna get the ball at the 40-yard line, and even if you get a 3 and out and you punt the ball, Southern's gonna get the ball back at the 10 again with 20 seconds and no timeouts.
No timeouts. Yeah.
Well, the returners just don't field the ball.
Wow.
They just don't catch it. The ball bounces down all the way to the 2-yard line before they eventually realize, oh, wait, my special teams coordinator is yelling at me. I guess I should pick it up.
My ball.
Ball. They pick it up, and they get tackled at the 13-yard line.
Wow.
All of a sudden, Texas Southern has the ball on their own 13-yard line instead of the 40, like it's normal for a safety. The special teams, if this was a game that had more national attention, there would be people all over calling for the special teams coordinator for Texas Southern to get fired out of a cannon. Because guess what? It gets worse. So they have the ball on their own 13-yard line. But still, it's okay, maybe the field position will be okay. Even you still have to get a stop.
Yeah.
Southern has to stop. 3 and out. Run play, jam. It's 4.
Yeah. Yep. Force and burn timeouts, which they
They burn the 2 timeouts. Run the clock down to 26 seconds left, and still, okay, you're on the 15-yard line. You're going to punt the ball. Southern's going to get the ball on their own 40 or 35 or whatever, and you still need a Hail Mary. You still need a miracle. And just like the Prairie View game, Southern has a chance to tie it up because of one of the dumbest individual plays I've ever seen. Have you ever watched a T-ball game from for 7-year-olds?
Mm-hmm.
Or someone who's new to golf trying to hit a drive off the tee for the first time.
Yeah, sure.
In the first time, it looks really bad because they hit the tee and just glancingly hit the ball and it rolls for 2 feet.
right.
Or the 5-year-old just knocks the crap out
all into it and just
the ball rolls.
Lifts it basically.
That's what happened to the punt. The punter, it doesn't get blocked, despite the fact that they went for it. They went for the punt block. But despite the fact that they went for it, there was no Southern player within range to actually block the punt. And yet, the ball went straight through the hands of a Southern player that was attempting to block the punt. It went straight. It was like a glancing blow. The punter just whiffed.
Crazy.
Michigan State 2015. Oh, it has trouble.
Yeah, right.
That kind of finish.
Yeah.
Glancing blow off the hands, 5 yards in front of the punter, rolls. Texas Southern falls on it, but it's 4th down, of course. Southern takes over on the 16-yard line with 19 seconds left to go in the game, and all of a sudden they have a real chance.
Yeah, they do.
And on the very next play, an offense that looked stagnant the last time they had a chance to go tie up the game. Now, of course, down by 7, not 5, because it was 19-12.
Yeah, that safety play comes into factor here.
Yep. Becomes a huge, huge factor. And in one play, Noah Bowden, boom, right, go ball, underthrown, perfectly underthrown. Quay Davis, end zone, touchdown, no doubt about it. They don't go for 2 or anything. They tie it up with the PAT. Yep. And in 2 plays, we go from the game being completely over to overtime.
Almost feels like LSU Ole Miss, the way that you kind of described it a little bit towards the end.
Yeah, those multiple 4th down conversions that
right.
In order to keep the game going, and then one of them just boom touchdown, and you're like, wait a second,
right?
I thought this was basically over.
Yeah.
And then almost similar to what I'm about to talk about, almost doesn't look that equipped for overtime once you get there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Texas Southern didn't look equipped. They couldn't move the ball on offense. Their kicker misses a 41-yard field goal, which gives the Jags a chance just to kick a field goal with their all-SWAT kicker and win the game. And they did it. They just moved the ball down the field a little bit. 4th and 1. They have a chance to just kick like a 34-yard field goal. He does. And they win the game in some of the most inexplicable terms I've ever seen. It was just over. If you had the ESPN win probability, it would have been 99.8% or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was a ridiculous game of football. Absolutely stupid. Huge win. You can't quite quantify how you can't put into enough big words how big of a win this was for Southern.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, they moved to 2-0 in conference.
Yeah.
Bear crawling over a field of broken glass to get those 2 wins.
But hey, ugly wins, they're better than pretty losses any day of the week. So.
But yeah, 2 wins. They face the other undefeated team in their division next week against Alcorn.
Yeah, it's a big game.
Homecoming at home.
Yeah.
It was every single thing that possibly could have happened. It was the 1 in 1,000 chance of you've seen that situation happen so many times in football. Yep. And it was the one time it actually ended in the team that had no right to win the game. Well, Southern played well. Southern outgained them by 100 yards by the end of it, all that stuff. But the final score was the final score, and then it just wasn't.
Yeah. Right.
And there's no other way to put it. Yeah, an unbelievable performance, an unbelievable game. The one final takeaway, I am happy to pass it over to you if you want to say anything, but I do have one final takeaway before we move
sure.
The other game is, well, of course, the thing that we talk about all the time after every Southern game, and that's the quarterback situation.
Yeah, that's the big thing everybody's going to be talking about.
So Noah has another pretty good game in the second half. The first time they looked good in the second half since the second half of the pre-review game. And Noah's able to move the ball. Not a great statistical performance because he played almost the entire game. He was 13 for 31, sub 200 yards, 1 touchdown. But the offense was able to move with him. What do you do next week?
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good question because they had won the job, right?
Yeah.
Is he 100%?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. And we have played 6 games for Southern this season, and in all 6 of the games, we have not had a quarterback that has played every snap for the team.
And to your point, Alex, it seems like Noah Ballin feels he just plays better when he's coming off the bench. For whatever reason, when he's not starting and he's just needs to come in and bring a spark to the offense. Like, and in fact, not just Noah, but it seems like any Southern quarterback. It just seems like whoever's on the bench that's coming in, they're the ones that actually running the offense and being more successful in the offense down the field. So that could be like, hey, like, do we start somebody else? You know, like 2 or 3 drives, and then throw Noah in there and just let him do his thing.
Jalen Woods, you're out here for 2 drives,
Yeah,
and then
we're gonna put Noah in.
It's like the equivalent of like an opener in baseball. One of those
right.
Like 1 inning. Yeah,
relief.
And it makes no sense, right? Because
yeah,
the person who's starting is the person who got the first team reps during practice, right? You would assume.
Right.
And so it just makes no sense. But you're completely correct that it's always been a person coming off the bench, even if they started the game. Because a couple of these games, Noah started the game, Noah finished the game, but missed an oftentimes cataclysmic section in the middle, but comes back and is a different player and is running the offense differently, and everybody looks like completely different. I don't know. It makes no sense. It's been a really it's been a roller coaster, but it's been a very fun team to watch because genuinely you don't see a situation like this.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a 2 quarterback situation or a controversy or whatever, it's usually like, okay, this player gets the start and then they play a game, and if it's bad, then the other player comes in. Or it's like this person gets a drive, this person comes in this specific formation, and you're working them both in at the same time. It hasn't been that. It's been this guy has won the job until he hasn't, and then this guy wins it, and then he goes and plays his butt off until he has it, and then this guy comes back and takes back over. It's not normal, and it's been really fun to watch. And this is a Southern team that's now 3-3, but they're 2-0 in conference, and so
that's the biggest thing there.
Yeah, this next week is the big game, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only 2 undefeated teams left in the division. If you want a chance at the SWAC championship, winning this game puts you in amazing shape to do so. Yep. So we'll have to see if this is a team that can really compete for the division and potentially even the conference.
Yeah,
that'll give us a lot of information on that front.
Absolutely. Make sure to keep following Alex. Always content for Southern. You can go back and read all of that just transpired. He even has the highlights in there, so make sure to go and check that article out if you want to go back and kind of relive that game. So go gridironfootballusa.com. And Alex, let's make a transition to your high school game, which, as crazy as the college game was, the high school game is at a wholly different level. And I said this all year long. I mean, you've heard me say this. But this year of the state of Louisiana, I don't remember a year that is as loaded at the running back position as it is in Louisiana. And you got to see 2 of them play each other on Friday night from Harlem Berry. Everybody knows about him. Number one running back in the country, 5-star, committed to LSU. Everybody knows him. And Riverside's 5'4", Dedrick Lassie, and twice the last 2 years when these 2 teams played each other.
5'4" on his tippy toes.
5'4" on his tippy toes. Maybe some heels. You give him some heels or something. Maybe he gets the 5'5". But twice he's actually outgained Harlem Berry, and his team won. So, and this time it was even more than last year, as clearly as I tweeted out when it was going on. These are 2 Gridiron Football Player of the Week finalists, that is for sure. But Alex, you were there. You saw a lot of running. It was basically a track meet on grass. But tell us what happened when both Harlem Berry and Dedrick Lassie met up on Friday.
Yeah, this game. This is a story that, again, I wish some of these things got more like national attention, because if this happened at the college level, this is the equivalent of like, the number 1 overall pick running back, like some superstar comes into a game, and then you come out and the other running back on the other side of the field is what everybody's talking about. Yeah. That's what happened here. Yeah. Harlem Berry. Everyone loves Harlem Berry. And I have a lot to say about Harlem after getting a chance to watch him in person at the end, but he is not the headline today.
Yeah.
Dedrick Lasty is a name people will not forget in this area for a long time. He etched his name in the record books today. He came within a stone's throw of breaking every running back record in the state of Louisiana in a single game. That was the kind of performance we had. And what I'll say is, there was a little bit going into the game where, like, you've heard of like Oscar bait movies before that like are built to win, Best Picture or whatever.
Yeah.
It felt like a Gridiron Football Player of the Week bait game, where you have two of the best running backs in the state of Louisiana. The one, the highest rated running back in the country in Harlem Berry, and a guy that looks a lot more like Darren Sproles than a high school running back in Cedric Lasty.
Right.
And, against two very small schools where maybe the level of competition around them isn't quite as high, and a game where both of them were really good in the games they played last year. You knew they were going to explode, but I don't think anyone was expecting them to explode in quite the way they did. A combined 870 total yards rushing between the two players, and a combined 14 touchdowns between them.
Goodness, 14.
And of course, a large chunk of that, the vast majority of that, comes from not the guy that all the headlines are about, but about Cedric Lasty. I don't have a final carry number, but I don't think it really matters. 530 yards rushing, 8 rushing touchdowns, add on a 15-yard reception for a touchdown on top of it. Give him 9 touchdowns.
That's a year for a lot of players.
That's a season for players.
Unbelievable.
There will be players that will finish the season that will go to pretty good schools that will be very happy with the 9 touchdowns they have at the end of the year.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and it looked like it. This is gonna sound absolutely like apocalyptically stupid when I say it. I actually don't know if the stat line does his performance justice. He had one called back, guys.
Oh, so he would have had 10.
He had one called back that the very next play, they RPO, boom, slant, somebody else is wide open for a touchdown because they probably put like 9 in the box to try to stop him.
Yeah. But at some point, you got to try to do something different to stop
at
them.
The very end of that. So he has one called back, and it was a running clock in the fourth quarter because it was a 30-point game the entire fourth quarter.
And Harlem Berry, like you mentioned, ran over 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. And it's a running clock involved, and just mind blowing. Like, I don't know how you can describe that when the number 1 running back in the country has over 300 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns, and yet they're losing because do the running clock. So Riverside's that far ahead. Unbelievable.
Because the final score was, I repeat, 76-37. It looks like a typo.
It's not. Yeah, it's on here as you can see it scrolling at the bottom. That is 76-37. That is right. That is correct.
Yeah.
So don't just screens.
So he had, I think, 500 of the 540 total yards and 8 of the touchdowns in the first 3 quarters. So if this was a close game, I don't know how it could possibly be a close game when someone has 8 touchdowns in the first 3 quarters.
Yeah.
But if it was somehow a close game, he had a couple more in the bag.
Well, I guess
11 or 12.
Well, I guess tell that to Pop Houston. He scored from Evangel. He scored 10 toucthouns, and they lost.
So there are a lot of takeaways that aren't Cedric related, but let's talk about Cedric first. He's special. He's a special kid.
Yeah.
Like his ability to break tackles, like the toughness, is the thing that's shocking. You put any 5'4" kid that manages to be a starting running back at the high school level, and you assume they're going to be shifty, they're going to be quick, they can probably do some stuff out of the backfield and like through the air, that sort of stuff, right? And you're expecting them to be that kind of a player. Again, Darren Sproles, right?
Yeah.
And look, you should not understate how good that was from him, because it was amazing. It was actually insane to watch him. Like, the vision was crazy. One of my favorite plays of his was this play where it's a counter play to the right. Mm-hmm. He reverses field twice. He reverses field Field breaks makes like 6 dudes miss. And then as he's, breaking into the second level to make it like a 15-yard gain, he says, "Oh no, I've got more in the tank here." Reverses field again, gets a block from true freshman Kenrick Johnson, who is one of the really good player. Catches a block from him, blocking Harlem Berry playing safety. Catches a block from him and then makes Harlem miss right at the goal.
I saw that play.
One of my favorite plays any player has made the entire season in the state of Louisiana. Absolutely phenomenal. It was an unbelievable play to watch. He was just doing it. It was every single play. It felt like that. It was just he was unstoppable. But the thing is, so yes, he is so quick. The acceleration's insane. Good top speed. All of that sort of stuff. Great vision. But the thing that shocked me was his ability to bounce off of people when they try to tackle him and breaking arm tackles.
Yeah.
Because you assume he's not going to be good at that with his size. And he was shockingly proficient at it.
Yeah.
And he was making guys miss, but he was also making guys not be able to bring him down. He was, like I said, he was just bouncing off people. It didn't make a lot of rational sense. This was another game that was dumb. It was funny. It made no sense watching what we were watching. And yet it was happening. You cannot give him enough credit for the performance that he had.
Yeah.
So that is the headline. 540 yards, 9 total touchdowns. Ridiculous. If he doesn't win, obviously there's a lot more about this than just the raw box score. There's a lot of community support and all of this, but I will riot if he does not win Player of the Week.
Pop Houston's also been nominated too, so we're going to have an interesting week. Those are just 2 of the guys we're talking about this week. But one thing I want to say too, it seems like being that small, being 5'4", gives him an advantage because when he gets the ball behind maybe a bigger offensive line, you can't find where he's at because where is he at? Because he's so small, and really he uses that to his advantage because he's so quick. He's so shifty. His ability to do that, and like you said, he probably ran 1,000 yards that night. He ran 500, but just going east-west, he probably ran 1,000 yards to get 500. So that's just how crazy that is. It just blows my mind. But
yeah, it was a special night. It's not a night that and I talked to the coach after the game, Coach Roussel, and he said I thought he was going to have a good game. I'm not going to pretend that I thought he was going to have 9 touchdowns. Nobody it's not it was a special occurrence. It was it's even for a player as good as him, that is a once in a blue moon thing to happen. So, and again, a lot of it is about what was the context of the game, right? It's a big rival. Harlem Berry's the guy everyone talks about, and Harlem Berry did his parts. Yeah. I'll get to him later, but a lot of this was, okay, Riverside gets this drive, yada, 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 and then one play, boom, Harlem Berry, 76-yard touchdown. Yep. Okay, go back out there, Dedrick. All right. Okay. So I've done all of the praising to Dedrick that I feel like is deserved. He deserves all of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot to take away from this game that isn't just him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Riverside won this game because they were the better football team around their superstar.
Yeah, right.
I don't care how good you are because I love Dedrick, but I saw the best running back in the state of Louisiana that night.
Yeah.
On the other side of the field.
Yep.
I don't care if it's him, but you got to have dudes around him or else you're going to get stopped. And I don't care if you have him in your backfield. Any running back is not going to be able to do what Riverside did to St. Martin's Episcopal on offense in this game. They had 11 possessions. They touched the ball 11 times, and they scored 11 touchdowns.
Football is a team game. And so, the better team is going to win. So, prospects and all that, we talk all about all that, but it's a team sport. It's probably the most – it's the most team sport out there. Compared to baseball, compared to basketball. Baseball and basketball, you can have one guy step up, and that'll be enough to win, or one or two maybe.
Yeah.
Football, it's a team sport.
And baseball is weird because of like how little playing time each individual person gets. But with baseball, there's also a lack of needing synergy, right? You are the sum of your parts in baseball. Football, there's a lot more of like the team element of it, where you have to have an offensive line that can be all talented, but they have to work together. This was a team win. They touched the ball 11 times and scored 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't know what running back you have. You could have prime Leonard Fournette out there in the backfield for you. You're not doing that to somebody unless the team is dominant and the team is
right.
Absolute pure domination because the supporting cast was so good. Dedrick was a superstar, and he eventually took over. And I talked about this in the articles that honestly, it didn't feel like it was going to be a game like this at first. The first like drive and a half, it was they were getting everyone involved. They had a number of playmakers. Kenrick Johnson was one of the big takeaways. I talked about him earlier. He's a true freshman. He's
in ninth grade.
He's in college.
Last year he was still as an eighth grader out there. So
he's producing. He again picking up blocks, getting catches. He was the guy that scored the first touchdown.
Yeah,
as a Wildcat, keeper, boom, touchdown. And so it looked like it might be a breakout game for him. It stopped being that because it became suddenly very stupid to give the ball to anybody other than one in the backfield.
Right.
Because he was completely unstoppable. But everyone, the quarterback, Brock
had a good game.
Had a decent game. Not a lot of numbers, again.
An incomplete pass.
Yeah, he was really efficient. He was producing when he was asked to throw the football. So, he was distributing to wide receivers. In the offensive line, another part of the reason why they won this game, especially by the margin, was because they dominated in the trenches. Completely dominated in the trenches. Yeah. Offensive line was getting an insane push, and the holes were really wide for him. So, contrast that with the absolute circus that was the St. Martin's Episcopal offense. They have some good players out there, but it is so jarring watching Harlem Berry play along everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Because the entire offense was give Harlem Berry the ball and hope he breaks 8 tackles.
Yeah.
What it was. Every one of their drives was either like a 3 and out, or maybe they get a little bit of something going but don't complete the touchdown, or he breaks off like a 2-play 80-yard touchdown down the sideline.
Yeah.
And they still put up 37 points. Like, I think that you lose the game by 30 and you're like, well, but we did almost put 40 on him. That's actually not that bad. He still had 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. He got his. He was still insane. And talk about him more as a player in just a second. But the team wasn't consistent. The offense wasn't consistent. They had a couple of plays from some guys, but it was all Harlem Berry. And you can't be one player. You have to be a full team, and Riverside was the better team.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, let's talk about Harlem.
Yeah.
Because the boss of our company, Mr. Andrew Bryson, had some thoughts about him when watching him last week.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to kind of look at compare to the observations, because I think a lot of what he said, I don't know if he ever talked about it on camera or not, but a lot of I'll echo some of the sentiments. A lot of what he said I thought was really accurate. That I think there are some genuine concerns when you're talking about the best running back in the country, because that's what Harlem is. He is the consensus number 1 running back in the country.
Yep.
Borderline 4-star, 5-star guy. I think 2-4-7, 4-star.
That's been a debate, but number 1.
Yeah. Is he the 30th best player in this country? Is he the 40th? Who cares? Best running back in the nation. You would expect him to be more of a total package.
Mm-hmm.
He isn't. He's not that. Think Jahmyr Gibbs as opposed to Bijan Robinson from that draft.
Right. A guy with like blazing speed, home run hitter. Yeah, but there's still some question marks.
But he's not an every down guy. I don't think he's built to be that bell cow. Andy talked about the just like his build isn't quite as thick almost as you would want for a running back that's running between the tackles.
We all know he's not Leonard Fournette. He's not Leonard Fournette.
He's not Leonard Fournette. No.
He's not like Jeremy Hill, Kenny Hill, like a guy that's like 240 pounds. We know that. But he's a home run hitter, and that's why he's ranked as he is. As the number 1 running back in the country, and he's as dangerous as any player in the country. That's for sure.
So this is what I'll say. First off, the speed is game changing.
Oh,
You talked about it right there, right?
Yeah.
It is. That's what Sunday speed looks like.
Yes, that's NFL speed right there.
That's what NFL.
I think he's been clocked on a 4.2, I think, or a 4.3.
The official thing on his Twitter is 4.37. I heard rumblings that he's done a 4.29 at some point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whatever. It's the raw speed that like 40 time doesn't actually matter that much, which I know is like sacrilege in a lot of the scouting worlds. But like, and I know it's like a standardized test, you need to have it to compare people.
Yeah.
But game speed matters a lot more. The game speed is unbelievable. And a lot of that is acceleration. I wonder what his 10-yard split is. Because I think it's probably elite too.
So I've seen Harlem Berry, and I know we got to wrap it up because we got other segments coming up. But the only time I've seen him play was Newman, and really in that game, Newman did a good job of bottling him up. He did run pretty tough, pretty hard, and that's really good to see that physicality with him too, for his eyes. But I saw him return a kick in the first one or two steps was all I needed to see. And like he didn't break that long touchdown run in that game, the game I saw him in person, but I saw that first 4 or 5 yards, and I'm like, okay, that's a little different. And like even though I wasn't able to see him break off loose a 70, 80-yard touchdown, just seeing that, I was like, okay.
And I got to see him do that a couple times. He had like 3 touchdowns and 60+ yards. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it is truly special game-changing speed, acceleration, all of that. I have an interesting proposition that I'm sure a bunch of people have said in the past. So it's not like I think I'm bringing anything new to the table, but I think it's worth mentioning. I wonder if at the college level, he might see some playing time at wide receiver instead of running back.
We were talking about that. Maybe in the slot.
Maybe in the slot.
Get him out outside because that's where he's dangerous. That's where he can change a game is on the outside. I can see that.
I'm not the sort of person that knows like what his route running potential looks like. That's a college coach to
That's why they get.
I wonder if the guys at LSU are gonna take a look at him and wonder if at the bare minimum some kind of hybrid 50-50 role where he's getting some real playing time out there in the slot. Because I wonder if that's maybe where he has the higher ceiling. Because of the skill positions in football, raw speed, and he has great game speed too, but raw speed, which is plus for him. Actually, a little bit less useful at running back than at other positions, in my opinion. Like, I think it's the most useful at cornerback. You're not going to play him at cornerback, though. No, he's a guy that needs to have the ball in his hands. Yeah. But I think wide receiver is more useful because if you can, and I think he's the sort of guy that if you can learn to kind of change gears, and
gadget guy, maybe punt return, receiver,
and become a gadget guy and like change gears in the route and gain separation that way, as opposed to just like the ability to turn a 15-yard run into an 80-yard run is great and all, but you're not running in a straight line that often as a running back. As a wide receiver, sometimes you're running go ball. Sometimes you're running, those routes where that elite game-changing speed. We saw this last year with Brian Thomas Jr., right? Where that elite game-changing speed, and you just learn to run a couple of routes. You learn how to run a curl. You learn how to run like a dig or something. And just that one cut, if you learn to make that one cut really well, and you force people to give you that level of cushion, that level of respect as a speed demon, as a special speed guy, maybe he's more dangerous as that kind of slot wide receiver. And I wonder if that's where his highest ceiling is as a player, which is interesting to say for the number 1 running back in the country. You wouldn't expect to say that, but I actually genuinely wonder if that's the case. Yeah. Again, I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's a fair observation from watching him. And he lined up outside a good bit.
Yeah.
They line up at quarterback at times because
Oliver's a good athlete at quarterback, so they want to try it's not like you got to worry about just Harlem running the ball. I mean, Ashton can pull it and stuff.
And he looked not too bad. He had a couple of runs in this game too. But they lined him up at quarterback. They lined him up at wide receiver. They lined him up everywhere. He ran a couple of routes.
Right.
So it's not like he's never seeing that. But I do wonder if that might be actually where he ends up going, because you see that sometimes running backs get converted to wide receiver and end up producing a lot more at the NFL level. But that's an NFL kid. That's a guy that's going to go in the NFL.
He's a kid. I mean, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. But Alex, appreciate you, man. I know we went probably a little bit over, but hey, that's a lot to talk about when you have that kind of historic performance. You have to go in depth about it, and then obviously Southern win. So keep on doing a good job, Alex, and we'll make sure to catch up next week on another great episode of Ball in the Boot. See how the Jaguars are doing, and so they can go 3-0 in conference and whatever crazy high school game you go to next. I mean, I don't know what running back combination we're going to be sending you next week, but I'm sure we'll talk about it this week and see what game you're going to.
Yes, thank you for having me, Matt. Of course, always a pleasure to be on here every week.
Absolutely, Alex. Welcome, guys, to another segment of Ballin in the Boot. I'm Jay Chachere, and alongside myself is Darryl Felker. Darryl's done an excellent job of really going all over the place for us. So for Gridiron Football, he's been to New Orleans. He's covered games in Baton Rouge. He's been in Lafayette. He's been all over the place. And speaking of Lafayette, that's where we want to go to. We have to cover this team because they're off to an incredible start this year, and it was great to get some coverage with the Teurlings Catholic Rebels. And the job that Coach Aponte is doing this year has been a phenomenal, incredible coaching job from this group. And for Teurlings Catholic, I mean, trying to continue their undefeated season. They're playing against a Rayne Wolves football team that's really explosive. They have Colin Wheeler on the other side, who's a fantastic football player. And I believe he's committed to, is it Southeastern?
Nichols.
I knew it was a Southern Conference team. So committed to the Colonels and Nichols State. So a really good football player and as explosive as they come. And you get a chance to see him. And Darryl, you were there. And it was once again an outstanding player. Gets an outstanding team in Teurlings Catholic, right? So break it down for us, Darryl. And you were there, and kind of give us a game flow of how this game turned out to be for Teurlings Catholic.
So it was actually Teurlings Catholic's senior night. So the fans were the stands were really packed out. It was a lot of fans. It was just a lot of excitement in the air. And they were going up against a pretty good opponent in my eyes. Like you said, they have Kylan Wheeler and Rayne. They actually, when I went up to the press box before the game to get the roster, they actually don't even have like a full roster, like 0 through 99. So they're a little bit short staffed, and every single player that was on their roster was listed for a position on both sides of the ball. So you could just tell that, Teurlings Catholic might have been a bit more of a powerhouse than Rayne, but they were 3-2 coming into the game. So, and like you said, those explosive kind of players like Kylan Wheeler, they can kind of change the game and keep you in some games that you really shouldn't be in. So I had high expectations going in. And as soon as the opening kickoff was upon us, Kylan Wheeler actually took it back to the house. First play of the game. And it was like, okay, he's here. So so I was like, okay, well, I know he's there for Rayne. So let's see what TC is gonna do. And they got the ball, and their running back, he's been having a really good season so far. Dougie Viltz, he went down and he got a touchdown run. It was like a 4th and 1, like right down on like the 2-yard line, and he was able to get in and take the lead 7-6. And after that, the course of the game kind of changed a lot. Rayne got the ball back without the kick return. They sent their offense out, and they went 3 and out. TC got the ball back, and their quarterback, Alex Munoz, he threw another touchdown pass. Well, he threw a touchdown pass to Dougie Viltz for his second touchdown of the game, put them up 14-6. So I was like, okay, Teurlings Catholic, their offense is really good. So I knew that they were going to be able to score. I thought Rayne was going to be able to keep up a little bit more, but that TC defense was really playing well on Friday night. So they forced another stop, and their offense was buzzing. And the quarterback, he came down and threw another touchdown pass and put them up 21-6 very fast. So kind of changed the pace of the game, because the opening kickoff, it kind of sucked the life out of the stadium for a second. And like, okay, we have a game here. It's going to be a little back and forth. But the players down on the field and the coaches, I guess they knew that this was going to be one that they were going to dominate in. So they took the lead 21-6 and just kept forcing stop after stop after stop. And Dougie Viltz, he got in for his third touchdown, making it 28-6. And then their receiver, Caleb Daniels, he caught a screen pass right on the sideline, and they were on the opposite 22-yard line. And he tight-roped all the way down the sideline, all the way to the end zone on like a great play. Nobody could catch him. He showed off some great speed. So that was a really good play, really big explosive play, and got the fans going. So at that point, they were up 35-6, and it was about like 2 minutes left in the first half. So I was kind of like, okay, think this one's gonna get a bit out of hand just because how well they were moving on offense, how dominant the defense was. It was like everything was just working for them, and everything was kind of going wrong for Rayne. So yeah, so they scored and took the lead 35-6 with about 2 minutes left. And I thought that would be the end of the half, but they sent their defense back out, and their coach, he's very aggressive, and they got to stop on second and third down, and he was calling timeouts trying to get the ball back and put some more points up. So they got the ball back, and Dougie Viltz, he actually ended up getting his fourth touchdown of the first half with about 10 seconds left. So at halftime the score was 42-6, and you could tell, I mean, Teurlings Catholic had this game in the bag. It was just going to be about running the clock down, just avoiding injuries, just staying consistent. So we actually didn't even have to worry about any injuries. They actually allowed some JV players to get some snaps in the second half. So they put the backup quarterback in, had a really good I'm not even sure if he's a backup running back for Teurlings Catholic, but Kason Evans, because they were kind of like a two-headed monster, but he got most of the work in the second half. So he actually ended up scoring a touchdown in the second half. And the Rayne running back, Corey Malone, he ended up scoring a touchdown late in the fourth. And that was all. It wasn't really much action in the second half, but the first half was full of so much action. I mean, 42 points and 42 unanswered points in one half. It was a really, really big offensive explosion for Teurlings Catholic in the first half. And that was really all they needed to solidify the win.
Yeah, you just mentioned it. I mean, offensive explosion. This kind of reminds me of like you're sleeping, and like you're really tired, and like maybe you're tired in class or something, and then like the teacher was like yells at you to wake up, wake up. Like, oh, I'm awake now. I'm awake. I'm good. I'm good. I think that's what happened with Teurlings Catholic. Like with giving up the kickoff return for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I'm up. I guess I'm up now. And once they saw that, for them to be able to respond back to it and respond like they did. The offense definitely responded, especially with what they're able to do. Obviously, you talk about Dougie Viltz. Like I said, another talented running back in this class. It's just insane. Like everywhere you look, there's a good running back somewhere, and Dougie Viltz is another guy. It's been insane this year. And offensively, I mean, it's like trying to get in and get out, right? Because you mentioned him getting those 4 touchdowns early in the first half. And then a lot of the conversations was the quarterback position going to the year because they graduated Preston Welsh, who was a good quarterback from the last couple of years. And Alex Munoz, I mean, looks like he's been pretty solid, right? I mean, they're undefeated. Went 9 for 12 in your article. I'm looking at it right now, 209 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, you add that to what Doug Viltz is doing running the football, you get a consistent passing attack. This is a tough offense to really defend.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know how defense is supposed to stop him. Like you said, I mean, just only in the first half, he had 9 for 12, 209, 3 touchdowns, and Dougie Viltz had 4 touchdowns. So between them, 42 points, and I mean, it's hard to keep up with that, especially when like he missed like 1 or 2 throws, but when he needed to be on the money, he was on the money. And I was really, really pleased with his performance and just the offense overall. I mean, they were, like you said, I think that opening kickoff really was like a punch in the face almost, like, we're here. And then Teurlings Catholic was like, the
Where was
stands are packed out. It's
it?
senior night. We can't
Can't
lose this game right here.
lose.
So yeah, and like we said, they were 5-0 entering the game. They've been rolling all season, so I think this was just another game to just keep rolling, and that's exactly what they did. So yeah, so the
Yeah.
final was 49-13, and
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I mean for Rayne, it was a decent performance. I mean, they did what they could, but I
Yeah.
do definitely feel like they were just outmatched. I mean, I think
Yeah. Of course.
TC was the better team, and
Yeah.
it showed.
Of course, and then there's nothing wrong with that. And they're able to strike first. Colin Wheeler, like we said, the Nickel State commit, one of the fastest guys out there. I think he does run like a 4.3 or like a 4.3 something. Like it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. He's got amazing speed. But talk about Teurlings Catholic's defense, because I know we talked so much about the offense, and deservedly so, because I mean that
Mhm.
was a big reason why this game ended up being a blowout. But at the same time, they got some weapons over there at Rayne, and then we talk about Colin Wheeler, and they got a lot of other weapons over there. But how impressed were you with Teurlings Catholic's defense? Because it seems like besides the kickoff return, they did a great job of really containing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like after the kickoff return, which wasn't even a defense, that was on special teams.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't. It was the first possession that Rayne had. It was a 3-and-out, and that kind of set the pace for the rest of the game. I mean, there weren't too many times where Rayne got down in scoring position. Most of the time, it was punts or it was turnovers such as interceptions. So I mean, it was a really, really great defensive performance as well. Because I mean, of course, the offense, 42 points in the first half. That's what
Yeah.
like the headline is. But 6 points in the first half against, like we said, Kylan Wheeler, and a really explosive offense when they just one play can change the game. So yeah, so I was really pleased with their defense, and I was really surprised, honestly, because I was going for the offense. I was going to see a dominant offense, see a lot of points scored, but yeah, their defense really came to play, and yeah, so the wide receiver that actually caught the screen, the
Mhm.
almost 80-yard screen pass, he actually was playing both ways,
Okay.
and he made a lot of good plays on defense as well. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I was really, really pleased with their defense, and I'm not too sure about I'm not sure if anyone's gonna be able to knock them off on their way to the playoffs, at least.
Yeah, they got some
Yeah.
interesting district games. I mean, that's always been a tough district. I mean,
Mhm.
Westgate. I know Jabari Antoine's their big stud. That's the 5-star cornerback and everything. That he's out for the year. But Westgate still have a lot of really great, really good players on that team, a lot
Mhm.
of good athletes, and then obviously St. Thomas More. I mean, we talk about
Yeah.
St. Thomas More not having a great start to the season, but it seems like ever since their Westgate win, they blew out Northside. It looks like St. Thomas More is getting back on track, and that should really be the district championship right there.
Yeah,
Between them two.
exactly.
That should
Yeah.
be a really
Because
good.
I saw St. Thomas more, like you said, earlier in the year, and they didn't look as good as they're
Mhm.
performing now. Like, I think they
Yeah,
really start to get things clicking. They figured things out. And yeah, they're playing really good right now. So I am excited for that game. They have them in 3 weeks. So
yeah,
yeah, so I think that's a really good late season matchup for both teams to kind of, test and see how ready you are right before the playoffs. And yeah, I think that's gonna be a really, really good game. But I actually do think just from what I
yeah.
saw last
Seeing
time,
both
and
teams play. Yeah.
yeah, I think Teurlings Catholic is gonna be able to get the win just because
Mhm.
their defense was really good. And that was one of the things I saw when I went to the STM game. They were playing Catholic, and
Yeah,
Catholic had a
Catholic is tough too.
yeah, really good defense as well. So it's
Right.
like, yeah, so it's like I've kind of seen how they do against a really, really elite defense, and
Mhm.
I don't feel like Turlin's Catholic defense is that much of a drop off
Mhm.
from some
Yeah.
of the higher teams that they've played. So I
Sure.
think they'll be able to stop that offense, and then as long as they're able to score it like they did on Friday, then I'm sure they'll be able to get the win.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, you got a chance to talk to Doug Belts after
Yeah.
the game. And what did Doug have to say about the game and about his performance and the win?
Oh yeah, he was pleased. You know, I mean, 4 touchdowns. Who wouldn't feel good after the game, and in only one half? So, I mean, he possibly. Oh, he actually had a kickoff return too that was called
Yeah.
back. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I
it
went
could
five.
have possibly been 5 in the first
Mhm.
half. So he was really electric all night. But yeah, he was also really happy. It was funny to see, but he was really happy to get the JV players in and get
Yeah.
them some snaps and just have them able to play and because when you're on a really good team with really good players like Teurlings Catholic, you're not going to get too much playing time until those guys either
Mhm.
graduate or move on. So yeah, so just being able to get them in the game and just get them some experience. He was really happy with that. And like he said they practice hard and that's why they've been winning. He was like
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I mean, what do you do to just keep it rolling? Cuz I mean, you're 6-0 at this point. It feels like okay, yeah, we at this point it almost feels like you can't lose. It's like what do you do to stay focused and keep it rolling? And he was like,
Right.
just keep doing everything that we've been doing, keep practicing hard, just staying focused, not looking ahead, just
Yeah.
taking each game one by one. And yeah, he thinks they can get the job done. So
Yeah. Incredible start by the Rebels. They are rolling right now,
yeah.
and right now I would say Acadiana, even though Acadiana has the one loss, I probably would put them over Turlings. But right
Mhm.
now, Turlings is right there in that area as far as like best teams in that area right now. I would say for sure. But 6-0, and we're going to see how Turlings Catholic if they continue to roll because guess what? That second half of the season, they're 6-0 in their non-district slate. Now they're heading into district play, so we'll see
Yeah.
how the Rebels are going to perform in district, which is a tough district. So it's going to be really fun to watch and see what Coach Aponte and the Rebels do. Darryl, keep up the good work. If anybody wants to read the article, the recap, make sure you go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com. Continue to follow Darryl. Darryl does an awesome job for us. So keep up the good work, man, and we'll talk next week on Ballin' in the Boot.
All right, Jay Shep, looking forward to you. Looking forward to it. I'll talk to you next week.
Jace Lejeune from Gridiron Football. We're here on another segment of Ballin' in the Boot. I'm joined by Tyler James, who's joined us again for a second appearance here on the show. And once again, he's checking out the Mandeville Skippers, and why not? I mean, they're undefeated, and you saw a couple of times already. But by far, this was going to be the toughest opponent they've had this season, the biggest challenge they've had in the season, and that is another undefeated team and the Covington Lions. So a battle of the undefeated teams, and boy, the game did not disappoint. It lived to its billing. Tyler's going to recap it for us. So Tyler, I mean, one of the top games in the state,
Yeah.
especially in that area. Guide us through it. How do we get to this point?
Yeah. So I mean, even just starting in the beginning of the game, I mean, when you arrived to the game, you could just feel the atmosphere was just insane. I drove around there earlier in the day, and I mean, there was already, I think it was like 3:30. There was already people out there hanging out, just getting ready for the game. So I mean, yeah, once you get in there, the atmosphere is crazy, and right as the game started, I mean, quick hitter. I think 3 minutes into the game, almost a touchdown, and it was just back and forth the whole night. We ended up with the final score of 35-33. So, like we said, it lived to the hype for sure. I mean, a two point loss. I mean, um, but yeah, I mean, both teams they competed. You could tell that there was nobody on either team that wanted to lose that game. I mean, that was the last thing anybody wanted, and it showed on the field, to say the least. So
Yeah, I mean, I got a chance. So I just finished calling the Episcopal game. So I was just kind of listening to some of the coaches talk, and they get high school coaches to call in. And Craig Jones was the coach that I was listening to, the head
mhm,
coach for Mandeville. And he
right,
said this game was your typical game where there were ebbs and flows. I mean, I believe that then I believe Mandeville jumped out to a 2 touchdown lead, and then Covington comes back. They tie it up, and they go back up by 2 touchdowns, and Covington comes back. So it seems like it was just like that back and forth swing game with momentum
right.
swing from both teams.
Right, yeah. So whenever, I mean, like you said, they would go up two, and you feel the momentum starting to shift one way to a team.
Mhm.
Boom, interception. Turnover happens, and I mean, whether it's Covington or Mandeville, they're right back in the game, you know. And when you have both those offenses are just, I mean, they're powerful offenses. They're moving, they're moving. So when it did slow down, you kind of expected that in a drive or two, it was going to pick right back up. I mean, just back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. And a guy that everybody's want to ask about because of the start to the season he's having. He's been ridiculous. He's a Duke commit, which I mean, right now, if he stays committed to the Duke Blue Devils, man, the Blue Devils got themselves a steal.
They did.
Nate Shepard. We'll
They
see how
did.
that continues to go, but
Yeah.
talk about his performance. I mean, not as he didn't have 6-7 touchdowns like he averaged in the month of September, but still
Right.
a very impressive performance against a really good Covington defense.
Yes. Yeah. I think it was 29 carries, 200 plus yards. I know he had a run in the game for 100 plus or 100 yards. But yeah, man, I mean, we could say it was a lighter night, I guess to say, for him. But realistically, I mean, 200 plus yards and 2 touchdowns is a pretty ideal night for a
Yeah,
player,
yeah,
you know. And yeah, I mean, he's the motor for that offense, man. I mean, you get him he gets the ball in his hands and something's good's gonna happen. And like we said, I mean, dude got them a steal. I mean, this kid is just light on his feet, just moves, powerful too. Runs back kicks. He's playing the defensive side as well for the Skippers. He's doing it all. Like, he's doing a lot for them. He's a big contributor to the team.
oh for sure. But Covington was undefeated for a reason, and there's a reason
Yeah.
why they're really good. It seems like they have a bunch, and the scary thing is, they might even be better next year because a lot of their guys that they have are juniors or underclassmen. I mean, I
Right.
know Jeremy Elsey is a senior for him as a cornerback, and I believe he had a pick six,
Yep.
I believe, in the game. But talk about some of the guys that really stood out to you from Covington.
So from Covington, the cornerback, he had a pick six, and surprised. I mean, I see him on the defensive side, but on his pick six, he did hit stick somebody and absolutely trucked them to the ground. So might be
Yeah,
seeing him on the offensive side of the ball here soon. But another guy that stood out to me, and I think we've been kind of following him, the left tackle we talked about.
Abram Lewis. Yeah, he sticks out. Like
I mean,
you definitely know his name.
yeah, he's a presence on the field to say the least. I mean, big guy, just big guy on the left tackle position. Um, Also the wide receiver for Covington, his name slips my mind. He was a physical. He's not your biggest guy. He's not your biggest guy. He's not going to go and be as physical as these other guys, but he uses everything he has to help him excel in the games. I mean, him and the quarterback seem to have a good connection. During the night, he seemed to be his top receiver, or yeah, quarterback's top receiver in the game. And he showed a lot. He showcased a lot of good talent, a lot of good skills. And honestly, one more guy for Covington is the quarterback.
Caden
You
Heck.
know, say again. Sorry.
Is it Caden Heck?
I think so. Yes, sir. I think so.
Yeah.
We talked about earlier. There was a couple bit of turnovers during the game. That any other teams that aren't powerhouses, they're probably ready to maybe give up when this happens. But no matter the incompletion, no matter if he threw an interception, he was right back on the field next drive, dialing the offense, getting them back going. I mean, he was able to keep them in that whenever they did go down, 14-0, down 2 touchdowns. He was able to get them right back in the game to still compete all night. So I
Yeah.
give a shout out to him as well.
Yeah, I think those receivers you talked to, you have number 3,
Mhm.
Marty Smith,
Yep.
and you have number 4 as well, Juwan Brock.
Got it.
Those are the 2 big receivers for
Yes,
Covington
sir.
we'll talk about. From Mandeville as well. I mean, obviously Nate Shepard is a big part of it, but what were some other factors from Mandeville that allowed them to get that 2-point win?
So Isaiah Bond, he this was really my first time getting to see him live action on the field. Younger guy. I mean, if Nate wasn't getting the ball, this kid was, and I mean, he didn't disappoint at all either. I mean, he broke a couple breakout runs, breaking tackles. Just that first tackle wasn't probably going to get him down, So he showcased a lot, and also the quarterback. He had two rushing touchdowns himself. And he's another guy that he could do. I kind of use improviser as the word. I mean, he could throw it. I know he can sling it, but he's good on his feet too, and he can run it in there and break some tackles as well. Also, we talked about him on the first game, the cornerback for Mandeville, younger guy. I think he had a pick as well in the game, and he's just bouncing around on the field. I mean, you see him. The play could be on the opposite side of the field. He's going to find his way over there. He's involved in every single play. I would say they have a bright future for sure with him. And those are a couple guys, that caught my attention when Nate wasn't flashing on the field, but those guys helped pick up the workload as well.
Yeah. Well, it was one of those games where I think both teams definitely deserve to win, but unfortunately, there has to be a loser in this game. But Mandeville was able to keep their undefeated streak alive. Isaac Bam is the running back you mentioned, right, from Mandeville.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, let's see, I know it starts with a Ben Hendricks. Ben Hendricks.
Yep.
From Mandeville. Ben Hendricks, the quarterback that you mentioned, and is it Michael White?
I think so. His name slips my mind. We talked about him in the first video as well.
Yeah.
First video.
Yeah, I know they got two really good DBs. Dylan Henry and Michael White. I think Michael White's a cornerback. I think he's the senior.
Yeah,
and then Henry, I think he's only like a sophomore, I believe.
Younger guy, yeah.
The younger guy. But yeah, they definitely got some really good players there. Now, just any overall thoughts from this game, because Mandeville, this is a team that went to the semifinals last year, was pretty much on the verge of going to the state championship last year. So they pretty much have a mindset of it would be state championship or bust. And now it's going to be interesting because district play, Mandeville has a chance for district championship, and they got some tough games coming up. I mean, Covington was definitely going to be in that district title run. St. Paul's is coming up too. St. Paul's is going to be another game when we talk about for the district title. So that should be a fun game to cover. So Mandeville moving forward, where I mean you've seen a lot of Mandeville already. What do you think about this team? And I guess playing just overcoming some adversity, right? With some swing. Like for the most part, Nate Shepard runs the 6 touchdowns, and it's like okay, let's rest some of our guys. But this time Mandeville had to earn that. And I'm sure that really the coaching staff is really wanting this opportunity. Coach Jones is loving this because, like, okay, we've overcame some adversity. We actually had to fight for this game because it's not going to be as easy when the playoffs start.
No, right. I mean, I think it's good for Mandeville. And I don't even think it was necessarily that like each team that neither team was as good as the other. It just came down to those key players and the players that made the play when needed. And like we said, Coach. I mean, he's probably is happy that he got to see this adversity because I know next week they got Hammond. And like you said, we got St. Paul. They got St. Paul's coming up, and I mean those are two teams that you definitely cannot take lightly because they're not going to take them lightly. And I think those are also going to be games that we'll see more closer scores. I think we'll still see them fight through some adversity. But, I mean, leading up to getting ready for the playoffs, working towards that every single day for them, I think it's going to be great for them. And same for Covington. I mean, I know they took a loss, but I don't see them having a horrible season now because of it. I think they're gonna continue to face adversity as well. And I think they have the squad to overcome any adversity they face as well. So
absolutely. Well, Tyler, continue doing a good job, man. And we'll definitely talk next week on Ball in the Boot and talk about the game that you're covering next week and
sir,
see what's up for let's see what's up going on for next week.
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
All right, absolutely, Tyler.
All right, thank you.
Hey guys, welcome to another segment of Ballin' in the Boot. I am your host, Jace Lejeune, and always join us. I mean, our interns or writers do an excellent job covering the games that they're going to. Some great insight on the games that they're covering. So I love that's what's really the show's about, to kind of give them some love and support and some extra camera time, right? and a chance to talk about the games that they covered. But we always like to get just a broad scope of Louisiana high school football and how pretty much some of the other teams, because we only got about an hour or two radius of where we can go to. So a good scope of like North Louisiana, South Louisiana, whatever. We bring along Grant Chachere from Crescent City Sports and Career Sports Media. We help each other out. Grant was a former intern at Gridiron Football. He's doing some really good things. He's one of the rising up and comers in the industry. So really proud of him and does a really good job. And Grant, I help him with his show as well. Friday nights on the Bayou, really good show as well because it's two different types of shows, Grant. Because we got your show, it's like the instant reaction we're seeing for the very first time and breaking it down. And here Ball in the Boot, we talk more of like just soaking everything in and just talking about it. And it gives another different perspective. But Grant, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. We had a great weekend of football. Some record-setting performances from across the state, and I was actually at the Riverside St. Martin's game, and of course, I know Alex already talked about that.
Right.
DJ Glassy pretty much shattered the single season rushing record. 540 yards, no joke, and 9 total touchdowns. He had 8 rushing and 1 receiving, and then Harlan Berry, of course, ran for over 330 yards and 5 touchdowns, and just incredible performances by both those running backs. I think a lot of people expected those two to go off regardless of what happened in the game, which it was a 76-37 blowout. But we all went to go see those two guys play. Of course, Harlem is the number 1 running back in the country, and he's coming to LSU. And then DJ Glass, he's kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum where he's an undersized back, 5'4", 140 pounds. But he's probably the most important player. No player means there's not a lot of players that contribute the way that DJ Glassy contributes to his team. Just think about like what he's done for this team the last couple of years. He was the most phenomenal player. He was the most valuable player in the state championship game. In the game they lost. And then now he's continued his strides he made last year as lean rusher in the New Orleans area into this year with that historic performance on Friday night, rushing for 540 yards. And to kind of touch on DJ Glass a little bit, to kind of let you guys know who he is in case, people forget, because, a lot of games are being played,
Right.
Last season, was in the past. Now you're into the 2024 season. But if people don't really know who DJ Glassy is, he was on the Bootleggers. The Bootleggers, of course, is a 7-7 team that is based out of Louisiana, and they're one of the best 7-7 teams in the country.
Yeah.
And he was he played a lot from. He was a starting running back. They put him on slot, and he was he made a lot of big time plays for the Bootleggers. He actually caught like a big time touchdown catch in the first game. I actually went over there when they played at Tag Gormley, and he can play with anybody in the country, really, and just not let alone the state, and that just kind of shows you how talented he is, despite the size. Hopefully he might get some looks from colleges. I know some colleges may look away because of the size, but I do think that because of the speed alone and like his versatility, somebody would use him. I don't think it's gonna be Division One. I'm not sure if it's gonna even be like FCS, but whatever college, doesn't matter which college it is, whoever gets them will have a fantastic player.
Yeah, you're right, Grant. And we're talking about when you're 5'4" and as shifty, as explosive as he is. Sometimes when you're that small, when you're that short, it gives you an advantage because like the defense, they're trying to figure out defensive line. You're trying to figure out where he's at, and you can't see him. So he kind of uses that to his advantage. But a special player. And man, if you liked track meet on grass, that was definitely what it was with both those special running backs playing in that game. And I never thought to see the day where a running back runs for 300 with 350 yards with 5 touchdowns, and it's a running clock on his end. So that was insane to have that game. But Grant, we're going to talk about, and this is what we're going to do each week. We're going to pick about 10 games. Just to quickly just recap and just give your initial thoughts and kind of our Jason Grant's basically top 10 game list, pretty much to talk about. That's what we're going to do here on Ball in the Boot. First off, we're going to talk about a game while me and Grant were busy covering LSU. What was LSU Ole Miss last night? A crazy game. We're going to talk about Jesuit St. Aug because obviously you're familiar with the Catholic League, and we're talking about, and then we had JB on the Friday nights in the Bayou as well, talking about it as well. St. Aug, they were looking really good early on in the season. I mean, you can already tell Robert Valdez made an impact on this team. And okay, you lose to Edna Carr. That was pretty much expected. The question was, how did you stack up against Edna Carr? Now, you go and play Jesuit, and you're expecting, okay, that'd be a big win to bounce back and get a win over Jesuit. But Jesuit has shown to be a really pesky team this year, and they got in a couple upsets, but this was the biggest one of them all. Was against St. Aug, 1-point victory, 24-23. Grant, I know you're very familiar with both these two teams, so your initial reaction to what was a little bit of a shocker on Saturday night?
Oh yeah, definitely. Last night, Saturday, this is being recorded. I mean, this is going to be released on Tuesday, but
yeah,
I know, because this happened now it's Sunday, Sunday night. But yeah, last night, sometimes I forget, the schedule and everything.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like thinking, is today Monday or Tuesday?
Right.
Like, I've been out of it. It's been a long week for me. But yeah, I mean, that was a huge shocker. Jesuit made a huge upset over Brother Martin early in the year.
Mm-hmm.
Although, I don't think people really paid attention. I mean, people paid attention too much to it, but people thought it was more of a shocking result than an upset. You know what I'm saying? Because the Jesuit, has always played Brother Martin pretty tough over the years. They've had some great battles, and I've been able to witness it as little brother Noah played at Brother Martin, and they had some pretty big battles. And then of course, when little brother Jackson played over there, his freshman and sophomore year, they had some battles as well. So those two teams always battle. But I mean, Jesuit did beat St. Aug last year, right? They did beat St. Aug last year. I know those two teams are completely different last year than they were this year. I mean, St. Aug didn't win a single Catholic League game last year at all. And then Jesuit had their struggles throughout the year last year as well. And St. Aug was seen as a lot better team. Coach Valdez comes in, and they seem to be playing better. They seem to be playing more disciplined. And although they had that tough loss against Carr last week, who hasn't lost against Carr like that, right? 34-13.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of programs in the state that have lost to Carr by that score, or even worse, right? So, I mean, Carr's the best team in the area, arguably the best team in South Louisiana. And you can make a case that they're the best team along with Ruston in the state. But, a lot of people thought St. Augustine would win this game. I thought it was going to be a close one. But Jesuit ended up pulling off the comeback victory over the Purple Knights. Jesuit, they had got a little bit of a pesky team. I always say this. Jesuit is one of those programs where they're going to have a few years like this where they're going to be like a 5-5, 6-4, maybe even 7-3 type of team. And then they're going to have a team for like a 2 or 3 year stretch where they're like really good. And right now, Jesuit's kind of going through that phase right now. I think once you got talented guys like Zion Forstall, who's only a sophomore. And I think by the time his senior year hits, he'll be one of the top defensive linemen in the country, let alone the state. So the future, I think the future is bright for Jesuit. And that shows in this victory over St. Aug. And the thing about St. Aug too is that they're going to learn. Just like they were going to learn from the Carr loss, you think they were going to learn from the Carr loss and go into this Jesuit game with a clear mindset. They didn't, and I think this game will be another teaching moment for this Purple Knight team that had a lot of expectations on them going into the year, even though I really think they shouldn't have. I said St. Aug was a 6-7 win team at the beginning of the season, just because it's the first year under a new coach and he's trying to install a new culture. And that's usually what happens with this. Like, Holy Cross is really exceptional. You don't see years like that where Holy Cross, they hire a new coach and then bang, they're the number one seed in the playoffs.
Right.
They're going to – they didn't win the Catholic League, but they were the number one seed.
Yep.
Which is kind of a weird ordeal. Like they didn't win the Catholic League, they were number one seed. But those stuff, you have to – that was kind of a lightning on the bottle, although I do think that Holy Cross should be a lot better this year if not for injuries. I mean, they lost a quarterback for a good period of time. So, but yeah, I don't think I think St. Aug had some expectations upon them that were deemed unfair at the beginning of the year, just because they're going through having a new head coach, installing a new culture, and I think moving forward, this team will get better. This week, I believe they'll play Rummel, and I think Rummel, I think Norm Taylor might be out for a good bit. I don't know. I know he got injured. I'm not sure. I think Mike Kovich told me that he might be doing some injury. Or no, I think maybe Hayden Lessard. I don't know. Somebody told me that he might be doing some injuries. I got to double check that. I'm not gonna. So I'm gonna double check because I don't think that's accurate.
Right.
But they might have some injury issues, so that's something to watch out for.
That changes a lot of things if he is.
That's not confirmed, but Corian Hawkins is a really good back, right?
Yeah, he is.
But Norm Taylor has been the guy who's been the stud running back for him this year. But I'm gonna double check that because I don't want to put out inaccurate information.
Right.
But that they have a chance to bounce back against a Rummel team that's also very talented as well, and also could really determine who finishes in second place in the Catholic League.
Yeah.
Because right now it's Carr, and then who's going to be the next best team after Carr? You know, and I know Rummel's still in the title race. Of course, if they win out, they'll have a share of the district title with Carr, unless Carr loses the game down the stretch before they play against Rummel the very last game of the year. Or actually, you know what? Yeah. For the very last game of the year, Thursday night on November 7th. But a lot of things could change. But right now, we're still looking for who is the second best team after Carr. We thought it was We thought it was Rummel. Brother Martin beats Rummel, but then Brother Martin loses against he gets demolished by Carr. Now that doesn't mean anything because it's Carr. We're gonna talk about the game eventually too.
Right.
But right now, we still don't know who is that team after Carr. That's how it was last year. Like, who was it? We thought it was Curtis, but then it turned out to be Holy Cross. And so we were trying to look for who's the next best team after Carr. Or matter of fact, change the subject a little bit. Who might be the team that could dethrone Carr from another Catholic League title? They've won the last two. They look like they're about to go for the third. So we still got 3 games left. We have week 7. We got 4 games left. So we'll see down the stretch if Carr gets dethroned, or if Carr still has his throne, who is the next best team after Carr?
Right. And that's a big question right now, Grant. I mean, we've pointed out to a couple different teams already. Like, I think we point out 3 teams. We point out St. Aug to be in a conversation. We pointed to Rummel, like you said, and Brother Martin. And then as soon as we pointed them out, they go and lose to another team in the Catholic League. But it just shows you where you're talking about really how tough the league is. Like, even Holy Cross with the struggles they're having, probably and the Carr's worst performance of the year was against Holy Cross when they were down 20-0. So at one point, so you just never know in this Catholic League. I mean, because of the depth of this league, how tough it is to win in this league, and you're seeing it. You're seeing some of the variety in that league as well. I'm talking about surviving. Let's go to North Louisiana for our next game we're going to talk about, Grant, and that is Ruston and Washita. Now, Washita's had a great start to the season. They're coming off a big win against Franklin Parish, as well as a high-scoring shootout. And then Ruston was, gangbangers against everybody. I mean, they were being teams really bad, especially like some of the best programs in the state of Texas. And we know how football crazy it is in the state of Texas. And they go and dominate that tour, and because nobody in Louisiana wants to play them non-district, and understandably so. But you come back, and then Ruston, struggles, and really Washita Parish missed an extra point to tie the game. We made it 22-22. They missed the extra point. Ruston hangs on and gets the win, 22-21. But like Carr, when they were down 20-0, we saw Ruston, get challenged a little bit, but they overcame that. They were able to win a sloppy game for the most part from their standards, able to get the win. But now we talk about the Catholic League, right? We're talking about that Northeast 5A division, Grant, and right now that district's going to be fun to watch, considering how good Neville We already mentioned Washita, West Monroe, Ash. All those teams get really in consideration when Ruston plays those teams.
Teaches you two lessons, and actually got to take out my earbuds real quick because they're about to die. So we got to do a reset because now, and I like to listen to earbuds just because it sounds clear instead of listening through the phone because that's how we're shooting it. Unfortunately, my Wi-Fi is down. But thank God, God created cell phones, or God gave inspiration to who was the guy that founded Apple? That's Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
to come up with the idea to create the smartphone. But Jace, this teaches you two lessons. Right? This teaches two things. One, how important special teams is. This game was determined by a missed extra point in the final seconds. You make that extra point, you're going to overtime, and you may have a shot to win the game.
Yeah.
Or if or maybe Washington could have gone for two. There's always that option because you're going against a team like Ruston, and I believe they were on the road, if I'm correct, right?
I believe so. I can double check.
Because we had the game because that was one of our games of the week. It was. It was at home. But still, even then, like you said, a lot of times coaches might go for two. So but you think you make the extra, you're going to make the extra point, but you don't, and that's life. I mean, a lot of times that may affect a kicker's psyche for the rest of the year, and I hope it doesn't, because everyone makes mistakes, and he missed an extra point, and he's gonna have to, and unfortunately he's gonna have to live with that. But I think, whoever, I don't know the name of the kicker, but he's gonna correct those mistakes, and he's gonna keep working on his craft because when you go through the event of failure, you're gonna go back and work on the things that you need to work on. And I think that's what he's going to do. And I don't think, he might be 100 for 100 the rest of the year.
Yeah.
That's, and that's to show, that just shows you how important special teams is.
Yeah.
It's 1 point, one extra point can cost you.
Yeah.
I mean, we also saw that in the Franklinton Joe Sumner game.
Yeah. Twice. Yeah. In that same game.
I mean, so special teams, St. Aug has missed on a lot of dome opportunities because they mixed the extra point and the missed field goals. That's how important special teams is. And all that was field goal, punting, and a return game. You saw that there. But the second thing really is also is that Russ is human. I'm not saying that like we got the confidence of beating them. No, it's really just like, I'll say this, and this teaches two lessons. One, no team is completely unbeatable. It's not an impossible task to beat a team, regardless of who they have on that team, right? We've seen that in the past. A great example of that, I know there's like back in the 80s, and I'm like way before we both were born, but the 1983 Nebraska Hurricane team, Nebraska Cornhusker team, was esteemed as the greatest team of all time. I mean, I think they still might hold the record for most points scored on average per game, because they're scoring like 70 points and 80 points against teams. And they had this go against this Miami team who at the time was just an upstart team. They just came out of nowhere, and Miami upsets them in the Orange Bowl, and they eventually win the national championship. So you had that, and then also the 91, I think it was the 1990 or 91 UNLV team had all these NBA prospects, and they were undefeated. And then they lost against Duke in the Final Four. So I mean, there's a lot of great examples of that in sports. And the Miracle on Ice.
Miracle
and a bunch of college kids beat a bunch of Russian professionals. So no team is unbeatable. But also that teaches you that's a life lesson for all teams that go against some of these top teams like Ruston or Carr, or Catholic of Baton Rouge, or St. Thomas More.
Sure.
Teams are beatable. You can beat them on any given day, every given night if you execute. But another lesson, and this is especially for a team like Ruston, who just came off an incredible run. They went out of state. They played 4 of their 5 non-district games were out of state, and 2 of them were just 2 of the top programs in the state of Texas, and Longview, and then Stephenville, who was the number 1 4A team in the state of Texas, and they beat Stephenville 63-17, right? So you have all this confidence. You think you're the greatest in the world.
you have to go play a district rival and Washington Parish, and then Washington Parish is hanging on with you. So that teaches you still got to have that mindset that you're hungry, that you still are the sort of the underdog, or something that have that you get that mindset where no matter who you face, they're going to give you your best shot, regardless of who you have on the team.
Right.
So I think that's a teaching moment, a lesson for these kids at Ruston, that you cannot lay your guard down. Washington Parish, I know they've lost 2. Now that was their 3rd loss of the year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
They still have talent on the team. Dylan Berryman, we mentioned before in the show, one of the top defensive line prospects in the country.
Right.
He's a great player, and they got other great players as well. So you can't let your guard down against some of these 6-year district rivals. Neville's got a really good team. West Monroe is going to give you problems. And Alexandria is awesome. We've talked a lot about Alexandria on this show and on my show. On Friday Nights in the Bayou on Ruger Sports Media. So they still have some teams to go. They still have some tough opponents to play. So they gotta have to get their mindset right, because you can't have another game like that where you nearly laid an egg against a Washout Parish team that you probably should have beat by a couple of touchdowns. Not saying Washout Parish is a bad team.
Right.
But if you're Ruston, the way you've been performing, they underperformed, and that's not their standard. That's not what Coach Ballin wants to have on his kids, right? He's created a standard over there. They're the defending Division I non-select state champions. So, but I think they're going to bounce back. They're going to have a better game. I don't know who they play. I think they play somebody good. I know they're going to play somebody good, but I'm not looking at the schedule because I'm on my phone. Usually, if I'm on the computer, I can do it really quickly. But I got to reach over.
We got West Monroe next week.
Okay. So yeah. I mean, district rivalry right there. I mean, West Monroe. That's a long time rivalry. That game came down to the wire last year, so that could be another close game. So they have to get they got to get settled. Tomorrow's the first day of practice of a new week. You have a great practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday's game day. So that should be a good one. We're definitely going to talk about that for a week 6. Is it week 6 or week 7?
Week 7. We're going to week 7.
Yeah, no, dude, this season's going by quick. So for a week 7 preview show that we're going to release sometime before Thursday, that's going to be one of the games we're going to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk about this run, Grant, for them. They got West Monroe at home. Then they go to Neville. Then they go back home against Ash in the next 3 games. So talk about a run. It shows you how tough this district really is. And Pineville is 4-3 right now. So even them are having even the Rebels are having a really good season this year as well. So we're going to actually stay in the district, and that is Ash. They're just continuing to prove and adding. They're stacking very impressive wins. And for West Monroe, when we talk about West Monroe and just the brand and how they've been really the kings of high school football, near the top. When we talk about Don Chowles and the great state championship teams that they've had in the 90s and in the early 2000s. But I mean, they go to Alexandria. They go to their stadium, and Ash is able to prove once again how good they are. They were able to defeat the West Monroe Rebels 45-35. It seemed like every time West Monroe was trying to hang in the game with Ash just made a play. I mean, Carson Sellers has been – we're talking about so much about JT Lindsay, but Carson Sellers has been a really good quarterback for his team. And to complement that with JT Lindsay and his ability as a running back, we all know about him, the LSU commit. This offense is very dangerous, and Coach Botman is one of the best just offensive guys, play callers out there. So that's a dangerous combination. And, for them just to continue to just add on, don't get discouraged with West Monroe really having a chance to get back in the game, right? Just keep on the pedal to the metal with this team. This team is very dangerous. We saw them beat Deshrehan earlier this year. So talk about a couple of big-time program brand wins they've had. Deshrehan, now West Monroe. And it will be interesting if Ash keeps on winning to see how they stack up when they play Ruston, which we'll talk about probably on your show as well as too. But Ash getting a big win for 45-35. And, I mean, where do you really put Ash right now in the power rankings. I think they were like maybe 5 or 6, but like in the corners of the polls. But should they be like a top 3 right now?
I mean, that's a good question. They're in Division One select, and really both Division One non-select and select are stacked, right? You got a lot of really good teams. So I mean, it's one of those things where, they're probably going to be a 6 to 7 seed right now because a lot of teams are still undefeated. A lot of teams have only lost one game against some really good opponents. So I haven't really looked at the power ratings. Sorry, my phone looks like I'm really close to the phone right now.
But kind of the point, Grant, where you start looking at least kind of like, okay, where's everybody kind of stacking at? When you reach week 7, week 8, that's when you kind of really start looking at that stuff.
Yeah, but but Alexandria, I mean, they should finish with the 8-2 record. I don't see them losing. I see them losing to Ruston just the way Ruston's been playing. I mean, they could be Ruston, but I just think right now the way Ruston's playing, I think that they might lose that. I think they might lose against somebody like a Neville or maybe even West Monroe. But that's still respectable because that district is tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we've mentioned this before, I think on a previous show or whatever, that in that district, Ruston's won 8 state championships. West Monroe's won 8 state championships. Neville's won like 12. I think they won 12, about 12. And then Washington's won a state championship. Ironically, against Brother Martin. So we just talked about a little bit a while ago. But I think we're talking about them more. But but that's a lot of tradition in that district, and that's 3 teams. That's 3 or 4 teams I just mentioned. Yeah. So, I think that's just a really tough district. I don't see Alexandria finishing undefeated. But I think when you play teams like that, that definitely prepares you for the playoffs. It really does. And I say that even a team like Rummel last year, where they finished season 4 and 6 in the regular season, and a lot of that had to do with injuries, but because they played against St. Aug and Carr and Brother Martin and Jesuit and Curtis and consecutive weeks, you played some of the top teams of the state. So you already seen the 4 of the 6 top teams of the state.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You've already seen them. So by the time you get to the playoffs, you go against Northward Shreveport, you beat them. You go against Captain Shreve, who's the number 2 seed. You've seen probably teams better than Captain Shreve, even though the number 2 seed. You probably played against teams that are better than Captain Shreve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And schematically, they matched up against them, so they were able to beat them. They went against St. Paul's and beat St. Paul's, and then they nearly, they could have probably beaten Catholic if it weren't for that rain out and they had to play the next day. Yeah. So, a league like the one Alexandria plays in will definitely prepare them for the playoffs because you're going to be seeing teams just like that who are just as good or maybe even better than the teams you played. But even those teams you played might be better than the teams that you're going to play in the playoffs, like Ruston and a Neville.
And to answer your question right now, I looked at the power rankings. Alexandria is number 5. Only ones that are ahead of them right now are Rummel at 4, Teurlings at 3.
Yeah, it was kind of expected.
And Carr at 1.
Yeah.
So that's what you got in the Division 1 select bracket. And let's shift gears here. And actually, anybody that wants to go back and watch that game, I just realized that I went on my Gridiron Football's Facebook page. 446 actually streams the game and with Gridiron Football. So if you want to go back and watch that game, it's actually on our Facebook page right there. So 446 Sports. Obviously, they broadcast a Gridiron Football bowl game, so make sure to check those guys out. So from 5A, we're actually going to go from 5A to 1A here. So we go all over the place, Grant. We talk about some of these games that we covered. Really quickly, the reason this is on the list is because I did cover this. I want to touch briefly on this since I was there on Thursday. But North Iberville, St. John, that west side of the river, right? You go to Plaquemine, Maringouin, right? That area. North Iberville, this is a historic game for them, Grant, because this is their first district game in like 15, 20 years. So this was big. North Iberville was coming in with undefeated record. They're playing against St. John and Coach Trosclair. I mean, this is a pesky group. I mean, they haven't won games, but they've been close. I mean, Covenant Christian that's undefeated. They played well against Covenant Christian. So like this was going to be a tough game. North Iberville was actually winning. It looked like okay, like this wasn't going to be much to talk about. A win for North Iberville, but they were up 26-8. And all of a sudden, just a couple minutes, Grant, before you can blink, it's 28-26 St. John with the T offense. And finally, you get to see North Iberville, this program coming back to varsity. This is the first time they get to face some adversity. And they only have about 2 minutes left in the game. They're down. St. John is their fans are getting pretty hyped up about it. But less than a minute, they go right down the field and they score a touchdown and they ultimately get the win. So that's just a brief synopsis of that game. If you want to read more about it, you can go to gridironfootballusa.com. But Grant, just really quickly, what are your reactions? I mean, the job that Coach Gass is doing right now for this Bears football team that's haven't had a varsity team in 15, 20 years, for them to be undefeated right now to start the season, in their first varsity season.
You know, I don't know a whole lot about this North Riverbowl team, to be honest with you. I'm not, because obviously it's the first year playing varsity football.
Right.
And I know you're a lot closer to them because of your connections with Gridiron, and of course you're also in the Baton Rouge area.
Right.
But from what I've gathered, from you and other people that have covered a North Riverbowl in that area, it's an incredible story. Play your first varsity season ever, and start off the season 6-0. That's hard to do. We've seen other stories like that with South Side where they just started off like in 2017, and by 2022, in 5 years actually, they won their first district title ever as a program, and they beat Acadiana. Right? And Acadiana's one of the state's powers. It's a hell of a way to start your program its first 5 years of existence. So
kind of like that too. It's starting out this.
Yeah, and so it's a very impressive. That's they're doing. I'm not sure who's the head coach over there. Now I know
Joshua Gass.
Joshua Gass. Okay. Yeah. So he's doing a hell of a job with that program. And he's gonna. I think this is a team that's could make a run of the playoffs. I'll be very interested to see that game against the Teurlings Catholic.
Yeah.
That could that if they beat such a I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either.
But if they do, that's a huge upset. And I know a lot of people see the 5A, really only pay just the 5A and 4A upsets because they're bigger schools, which obviously because those are where the bigger brands are. But in 1A football, especially Catholic, a lot of people have them going to the dome. Especially when you have players like Chad Elsey, and they got other players that are very talented as well that go with Chad Elsey. So if they can pull off an upset against North Iberville can pull off an upset over against Teurlings Catholic, that would be huge for their program, especially its first year of existence. But there's a lot of shocking teams that undefeated as well. I mean, Pope John Paul II, they're 6-0. Hayes Academy, I believe they're 5-0. There's a lot of teams around the state. They're like, oh wait, this team's 5-0. Franklinton. They had a huge win over. I know we're probably going to talk about them in a second, but they also had a huge win over Lakeshore. And a lot of people didn't know. I think a lot of people didn't know Franklinton was doing well until the week of the Lakeshore game.
Yeah.
And actually, I was kind of following Franklinton's ghost. Was like, oh wow, they beat AV. They beat Pine.
Yeah.
I might go see their game against Joe Sumner because I'm not sure how many times we go see Franklinton. We went to the game on Thursday. Right. They pulled up that victory over Joe Sumner. And I'm like, they can beat Lakeshore. They have the team that can beat a team like Lakeshore. They're because they have the size and physicality and also the speed to match up with a team like Lakeshore, which they did. And maybe you want to segue into that since I've already mentioned it. I kind of some spoilers already. I'm the worst, man.
No, that's perfect because that makes my job easier, right? Because we could just lead into it, right? But Franklinton, like we said, we both got the chance to see Joel Sumner, which, by the way, there's not a lot of games I come away just very, very impressed with both teams. But that was a game, Franklinton, Joel Sumner. I came away really impressed with both teams. But Lakeshore was like, okay, this is another test, right? Because when we talked to Coach Salter from Agio, he was like, he was all about, okay, We need to get a respect. This team has, definitely earned that respect. Like the teams you just mentioned, the teams that they defeated, like Amy, right? Like Pine, like teams that in that area that we know that have been consistent year in and year out. Get that win over Jules Sumner. That's a really talented team. And then another one, Lakeshore, because we know about Lakeshore and that like North Iberville. They just came out of nowhere starting the program, and they immediately were playing for a state championship against Car when they were really just starting the program up. And Coach Indes is a state championship winning coach. And, when he took over that program for Coach Jones, that was going to be still in good hands. So this was a big opportunity again for Franklinton just to add to their resume on why they should be respected. And obviously the PowerPoints really show that already, which matters the most. But 35-28 is the final score, Grant, over Lakeshore. And really that North Shore, that whole area has been really good. I mean, really underrated in terms of football they've been playing right now. And it's good that they're getting some press and some love. But your reaction to the Demons and, I see Brandon Taylor was at the LSU game, and I love seeing him. It was halftime homecoming. I heard like one of the candidates was they're announcing what city they're from, and they announced Franklinton, Louisiana, and Brandon Taylor's like, all right, Franklinton, So I got showing some support there. I love that. Love seeing that. But Franklinton, they've had some great teams under Shane Smith, and it seems like it's been a couple down years since then, but that magic's coming back, Grant, and you're seeing that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. I guess you could call it dark magic because we're dealing with demons here. The Demons are back. It's been a long time coming. Coach Salta Formaggio has done a fantastic job with this program. I actually got to talk over the phone with him and do an interview with him, because I released an article. It's on CrestCitySports.com. Go check it out. And actually, I'll send the link to Jace, and he'll probably put some link if you want to see what's kind of going on with right now, what they had to do to kind of get the program back and running.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things he mentioned this week, is that he was reading an article because the previous week, of course, Vandy upset Bama. That was the biggest story in the sports world last week. Was Vandy being Bama, and one of these he pulled up was like the Vanderbilt coach told his players before the games, like, forget the past 40 years. Worry about the now. The only thing you can control is what's going on right now. And basically that's what Coach Salt relayed with his teams. Like, forget about the past 8 years. And there's really nothing you can do about it. So you can only focus on what's going on now, and what you do now can affect the future. It's also before they beat Lakeshore on Friday night. It was the first time in 8 years. This was a Franklinton team that was one of the best programs in the state, let alone South Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
I think from like 2007 through 2013, 2014, that they had like 7 or 8, like 7 of their 8 seasons, they've won 10 games or more.
Yeah.
Went to the state semifinals, I believe, like 3 times. Won a state championship, was a state runner-up. I mean, they had a crazy run under Shane Smith, but when Shane Smith, who's now the principal, by the way.
Yeah, he's still with the team.
But he's still the principal, so he's still very well a part of the Franklinton program. However, he left to take an assistant job at Southeastern. They've been to had a lot of coaching turnover, and really, Coach Nick Salta Formaggio is actually the 4th coach they've had in the last 6 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a lot of coaching turnover. When that happens, the funding may go down because you're not winning anymore. A lot of stuff happens with the schools, in the country, right? If you're not constantly winning, that's when those types of programs go down. But Coach Salt's done an excellent job developing the guys he has. He said the strength and conditioning program really helped his team prepare for a lot of these close games that they've had. I think 4 of the 5. I think like 4 of the 5 games they won were by like 7 points or less, like something crazy like that. And a lot of times he said that like because the year before they went 3-7 before those losses were like by combined 13 points.
Mm-hmm.
So he's done a great job, not only physically preparing the guys he has, but also mentally training the guys he has. And, you pick up a huge win over Franklinton. You're in the driver's seat for district title. You win out. You're district champions. And I don't know when. I think maybe like 10 years, a little under, maybe a little under 10 years, a little over 10 years. I don't know the exact year they won their last district title.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time coming. The community's really excited. Most of the coaching staff is from Franklinton. They went to Franklinton. A notable guy on their staff is Josh Robinson, who was the running back for Mississippi
He was
State.
part of that great Lawrence McGee, Josh Robinson. Yeah, that was a great back.
Yeah, and of course, you already mentioned Brandon Taylor was celebrating Franklin. It's a great time to be a Franklinton native, per se, just given the amount of success that they've had.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, the Magic is coming back, and I know Coach Salter from Algio was visited us in the off season for a media day, and man, they were really like not only Coach Salter from Algio, but really the team was very upbeat about the season, considering the 3-7 season the year before. You knew that they knew what they had going to the season, and just having those close losses was like it's only a matter of time of turning out into wins, and that's what they're doing. Speaking of teams that transition here, of teams that needed some wins, and a team that we talked about as far as getting back on track, which has been shocking to say that at this point is their first win of the year, is the St. Charles Catholic Comets. But they were able to finally get that win, which is crazy to think about because we're in October, and this is the first win of the season for them. But they're able to get a 25-19 win over Terrebonne. Skylar Edwards, was big to get him back, and he scored like 4 touchdowns. Defensively, they did a great job of containing Alvin Celestine, who actually went to a gridiron football camp as a sophomore. And I mean, we knew like, okay, like this kid's different, and they were able to contain him. Played really good defense. Leaned on that running game. They played Comets football last week, and we were talking about when was the win going to come for St. Charles Catholic, and could it be a winless season after making five straight state championships in a row, and then some. But St. Charles Catholic was able to get the win, pull it out in overtime, and like I said on your show, it's just a big gorilla, humongous gorilla off Wayne Stein's back right now for them to finally get that win. And maybe that changes the season for them moving forward.
You're talking about a gorilla. I'm thinking about an elephant, dude. Like that was, I mean, that common program has had to deal with a whole lot these past month or two. I mean, just they've had a lot of injuries. They had to replace a solid amount of their production from last season because they had a large senior class last year, and also that was a senior class that had been to 5 straight state championships from the time they were 8th graders on varsity to the time that they were seniors. That's a lot of production that they were losing this year, and not only on top of the injuries that we already had, including to Skylar Edwards, but you also are a very young team. This is still a very young. I know that they still have some guys. They still have a few guys returning from last year, but overall, this is a very young team. And you lose your first game against Newman, which is a team you've been like I think the last 3 or 4 times, and you dominated Newman. Their games were close, but you were always the more physical team than Newman. And Newman this year was the more physical team, and that was kind of a bit of a shock to them because they're used to bullying Newman. Then the next week, you play. Oh, they had the Hurricane. Yeah, but it was against Lutcher. So who knows what that score could have been because, they're dealing, like I said, with the injuries and then the youth they have on the team. Next week, you go against Dunham. It seemed like you had the game. You had the game in your hands, and then you slowly lost grip of the game. Yeah. And you ended up losing late, 20-15. And that was the game you should have had back. The next week, you lose against De La Salle. Yeah. And that was a shocking loss. And that's when you thought, okay, what is going on in St. Charles? Like, De La Salle's they're going to be an improved team, and they are. I think they will. I know they had a rough start of the year, and that's a lot. Has a lot that has to do with playing a lot of these really good 5A teams, and right now they're still trying to not only improve but also kind of rebuild too, because it's still a young team that they have over there at De La Salle. I think Graham Jarrett is doing the best of his capabilities with that team, and I think they'll continue to improve as the year goes on. And they have a shot to win a district title, by the way. So still a lot to look forward to for the Cavaliers. But then the following week after, you lose against De La Salle, they lost another one. I forgot who that team was. Who they lose to after De La Salle? There's another team too.
Yeah. There was. Was it St. James?
St. James, yes. St. James, yes.
Yeah.
There's so many of the River Bears. So they lose against St. James, and that's another very good team, right? I mean, they're in the state championship as well.
Yeah.
So you lost against 4 really good opponents. A lot of them were really close. 3 of them you probably should. 2 of them you probably should win. That's De La Salle Dunham. But you pick up a big win against a terrible team that's a really talented team. Team that it seemed like it was on the cusp of doing something great for a district title, and you beat them. You beat a 5A team. You are a 3A team transitioning to a 4A, and you beat a 5A team. That's a very solid 5A team, in fact.
Yeah.
So they're going to help to build off this game. They still have a shot to win the district title. They have to beat Belchase, and they have to beat Shaw. Those are 2 really good teams. Belchase is undefeated. Shaw, they start off the season not the best, but they've won 3 straight games. They're 4-2. Have a chance. They pick up a huge win over Walker this weekend. So there's plenty of time for this common team to pull it together and figure it out by the time playoffs time.
Absolutely. Well, Grant, if you want to talk about the next budding rivalry out there, that is LCA and Lafayette Renaissance. Let's just say you're not going to be getting some Christmas cards exchanged between these 2 programs. I can tell you that much is for certain. Especially, I think Lafayette Renaissance didn't even allow because LCA's streaming service to come and cover the game and broadcast the game, which was insane enough. But this is going to be a heated rivalry from the get-go. With Trev Falk, who helped build that LCA dynasty, and Hunter Landry, who was the head coach last year when they went to the state championship game with Jawan Johnson, that they left to go and build the Lafayette Renaissance. I mean, to me, it's eerily similar to Evangel, and a lot of those pioneers at Evangel moving from Evangel and starting up Calvary Baptist. So it kind of reminds me in that sense. But now I love loss between the 2 teams. LCA, they were definitely made the headlines because of making the coaching change midway. Well, not even saying midway. I mean early in the season with Zach Lockhart and having 2 coaches, both coordinators, really sharing the wealth as the head coaches for LCA, and they like other teams we talked about, right? LCA has played some very tough teams to start this season. And the talent is there, and they needed to pick up a win. And I think it's even sweeter that LCA was able to get that win 34-19 over Lafayette Renaissance. And, for that to be the head coach's first win for LCA against that team, whole lot of factors really going into it. They really recapping this one.
Yeah, I mean, where's the beef? It's right there in Lafayette. So, of course, LCA was able to beat Lafayette Renaissance. So Lafayette Renaissance is a program that, it's going to be on the rise. They're still building, of course. So they still got a little bit of time, but I think in a year or 2, that's a team you need to watch out for, right? That's a team that there's going to be some conversations in regards of going to the Dome. Of course, when you bring over Trev Falk, I know Trev. I think he's, I think you texted me that he was banned for a year by the LCA for some foul issues and stuff like that. But he's helping build that program of Lafayette Renaissance. They brought over Hunter Landry from LCA, and they got some good players over there. But I think in a year or 2, they're going to start bringing in some more players, and they're going to be really good. And so, and LCA, of course, you already know that they have talent now. It'll be really interesting to see what LCA does moving forward, because I think we all know by now with the head coaching situation they have over there. So, how do they respond? Who do they hire? How you keep the program to where it's at right now because of the coaching turnover, and also to keep players from going to a school like Lafayette Renaissance or even other schools in the Lafayette area. In fact, just because of all the stuff that's going on. But that was a big win for LCA, especially with all the off the field distractions and everything like that regarding the heck, obviously the heck, with Coach Lockhart being fired and everything like that. So, or let go in a more professional sense.
Yeah.
But that's like you said, this is a rivalry that I think that's brewing. However, it'd be really interesting to see if LCA can keep their program going moving forward, because I'm not sure, because with that, we're talking about a third, because right now they have 2 co-coaches. So really you've had 4 head coaches in the last 3 years. So you had Trent Falk, Hunter Landry, Lockhart, well, actually 5.
5, because they're sharing.
There's 2 interim co-head coaches. So it's a lot of craziness going on at LCA, but hopefully they get figured out. But if they're able to maintain the program they have now, and Lafayette Renaissance keeps building to what they're keeps building on what they're trying to accomplish over there, this could be a big time rivalry out of the Lafayette area.
Oh, I can see that. It's going to be fun to watch, and how this grows year in and year out. And one thing's for certain, LCA they improved to 2-4, I believe, and they have the athletes. I know Juwan Johnson's not there anymore, but Brandon Walker's like a really good athlete. Jerry Noel is there at running back, still a really good running back. Calvin Parker receiver, so they got some weapons there, and they can make things interesting. Speaking of always making things interesting offensively, we're going to talk about the Airline Vikings again. So they improved to 6-0. Coach Scoggin, what a job he's done over there up at Airline. And I don't think there's a hotter quarterback wide receiver connection right now with Ben Taylor and Kenny Darby right now. I mean, those guys, and you also got Jarvis Davis on the other side.
I was about to say, you can't forget about Jarvis Davis.
Yeah, Jarvis Davis. But really, I guess you combine those 3. I mean, there's no hotter connection between that quarterback and those receivers right now. And this is going to be the thing. Like, Airline can be a state championship team if the defense doesn't have to be like similar to LSU, right, in 19. Yeah. You don't have to be the 85 Bears or anything like that, but just hold offenses enough. Get off the field, make 2 or 3 stops. That's all this offense needs, because this is, you can say, probably the best offense in the state of Louisiana with Ben Taylor and the historic run he's having right now, especially passing the football. That's for sure. But for them to play Parkway, that was a undefeated team going into a big game. And then Airline was able to take care of business, and it wasn't like a 1-point victory or anything where Airline had to sweat it out. They controlled this one against a good Parkway team, 42-23. Grant, your reaction to this performance in Airline, not only because they won't score 40-50 points, that's a given, but the defense stepping up and only giving up 23.
Yeah, and that you said it better, and you couldn't have said it any better. I mean, we both cover LSU, and one of the things that's expected of that defense is for it to be a top 10 defense. But with the guys they have currently, you just don't think that's going to happen. But even though you have a great defensive staff with Blake Baker calling the shots, and you have 2 phenomenal defensive line coaches, Kevin Peoples and Bo Davis, and of course Jake Olson and Corey Raymond are doing a great job mentoring those younger guys that really balled out in that game against Ole Miss. And one of the things that you have to ask your defense to do is just make stops. That's it. You don't have to, like you said, you don't have to be the 85 Bears. Just make the stops that you need to get you need to get off the field so our offense can be back on. The more stops you can, the better chances of you winning a football game, right? I mean, that's just how defense works. You don't have to be the 85 Bears. You don't have to be the 2015 Denver Broncos. You don't have to be every single Nick Saban defense has ever existed.
Right.
Just make stops. That's it. Get your offense back on the field so they can work their magic, and that's what they did. That's what they did in this game against Parkway, which is a team that's been averaging over 42 points a game. And you held them to I think there was like 20 something points. What was it?
23.
23, yeah. 23 points. That's incredible. That's a great defensive performance by this Airline defense that a lot of people have given crap, but really every single Shreveport defense. We've made jokes about them not playing defense, but Airline can play defense, and that's something I talked to Coach Scott before the year. And they can play defense. It's just that you just need to make the stops, especially when you have a high-powered offense. We have a high-powered offense like the Airline has, like Calvary has, like Evangel has, passed for over 800 yards. Is it absolutely insane? Captain Shreve, even though they really don't pass the ball, they can run for 500 yards a game. Huntington, you name it in that area, right? They all have awesome, high-flying offenses, potent offenses. So you just have to make stops. The stops necessary to win the game. You don't have to make every stop, but you have to make stops.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, right? In the end, like, it's the points that matter. Did you score more than your opponent? And no matter what, Airline does a good job of doing that. So in shootouts and whatever means necessary. So Grant, we got 2 more games to recap. Basically, we're at 10 lists. I know you go your top of Magnificent 11 with the teams. We put up for Crescent City. Those, I guess, are 10 games to discuss from the previous week. We're going to touch on it briefly because we mentioned a little bit earlier, but in the car, Brother Martin, in the car, pulled away. I heard it was only a touchdown game, like into the third quarter, but in the car, being the type of team that they are, they're just able to pull away and able to win decisively over Brother Martin. And it's kind of a similar type of score like against St. Aug when they were able to really control and pull away from the Purple Knights. They do here 42-14. I know Brother Martin was hanging with them early, but this Endicott team, man, it is really tough, and it's really hard to find a significant weakness across the board with this team.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, wait, can you pause it for a second?
Yeah.
Well, Jace, as we found out, for the 6th straight week this season, that Carr is Carr.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, what more can you say? John Johnson. John Johnson's keeps playing. He has another fantastic game. He only had like a few incompletions. He had over 250 yards of passing again. He had a few touchdown tosses as well. This Carr team is rolling. And the funniest thing is, like, to Bryce Brown, it was a sloppy game. Despite you won 42-14 over our Brother Martin team that's been one of the better teams in the North area.
Wow.
Since Bonies has gotten there. Really for a long time. But Brother Martin, ever since Bonies got there 2010, and really probably you can start with the year 2014, they have been one of the better programs in the state consistently, right? Even when they're not that talented, they're going to find a way to somehow compete for a Catholic League title. Or they're a game away from a Catholic League title, or they're expected to go 6-4 or 5-5, but they finished up the season 8-2. Coach Bonies has done a great job with that Crusader program. Led them to their first state title in over 30 years. Carr's Carr. Carr is a very talented team. Even when they lose players, they're not rebuilding; they are just reloading. They're guys who are currently on the bench as the game's going on. A lot of those guys will probably start for your high school program. Actually, they had a guy by the name of Tyree Dyrensborg, who was supposed to play a good bit for the Cougars. He's now at Chalmette. He's the starting linebacker at Chalmette. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of guys on this team that can easily go on to the next program and start, but a lot of these guys wait their turn because they want to play for this program. Like I said, they don't rebuild; they just reload. And you're seeing that again as they're on pace to win a 3rd straight Catholic League title. Their next toughest opponents, of course, are against Curtis and Rummel. They still have to play those 2 teams, but I expect them to beat Curtis. Curtis right now is struggling offensively. Their defense is awesome.
Yeah, the defense.
But offensively, they lost a whole lot. And so they're going through growing pains right now. I think later in the year, as we get later and later in the year, I think they'll improve. But right now, they're not playing their best brand of football right now, and that's okay because they're going through some growing pains. They had to replace a lot of guys, and then Rummel, they're struggling offensively right now. After they had a great few weeks of the season, they've really struggled offensively. And you saw that this week when they only won 14-0 over a struggling Warren Easton team at the moment. That's also very young, and it was 0-0 at the start of the fourth quarter. And so Carr has a great opportunity. These next few weeks to repeat to have 3 straight Catholic League titles. I think that's the only team that has done that. I mean, I got to look at who's won the Catholic League title. Really, I could do that right now, but but the consistency that Carr has had in the last 3 years and just completely dominating this Catholic League. I mean, I know last year they lost their last game against Curtis, but at that point they had already been officially the Catholic League. So I think they let slack off a bit. And then also it was the game that if Curtis won, JT would break the national record. So you had Curtis players playing for something greater than themselves. Carr was kind of like, oh well, we won the title. Like, all right, let's go out and play football. Not realize, oh wait, no, these guys came ready to play and we didn't. And that's kind of what happened. But Carr wants to fix that. They went and finished the season undefeated, so there's nothing, left. Oh well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and you're seeing that right now. And next year, a lot of those guys are coming back. So, Carr's Carr, and you saw that on display in a 42-14 rout over a very good Brother Martin team.
Yeah, I want to say Billy Metcalf was taking pictures of that game, and he went to
phenomenal. By the way, phenomenal photographer. By the way,
he's
awesome. That's a side gig, by the way.
Yeah,
and he's basically
he's awesome.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a side gig, and he's one of the greatest at his side gig.
He is
incredible. Engineers are a different breed, man. They can do it all.
Yeah, jack of all trades, right? And he told me, it was like, Jace, I took pictures of a lot of different games this year, but the 2 quarterbacks that really stood out to me the most were Elijah Haven, and about him, and John Johnson. I mean, John Johnson, I think, deserves his flowers, man, because I've seen some really good quarterbacks in the car, but I think John Johnson is actually one of the best ones to come through here. I mean, I really do. I mean, I'm really, really high on him.
John Johnson is your typical in the car quarterback, 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah,
kind of scrawny, but has a great, is very precise with his passes.
Yes,
he makes the play. He makes the plays needed, and he wins games.
Yeah,
and that's what Carr appreciates. They just want you to win games. And John Johnson, I really thought he was gonna. I knew he was gonna have a great year because I saw him in a lot of these 7-on-7 tournaments, and then we saw him in the spring game, and he had some great passes in the spring game, and then in the 7-on-7s, he's really grown his score. He's a lot more comfortable throwing those tight windows than before, and that's why you're seeing that on display this season. He's been awesome, and it'll be pretty excited. Once, and obviously you got some big games coming up with Carr. Of course you got Rummel, and you still have Curtis.
Yeah.
But in the playoffs, they're probably going to be the number 1 seed, and it'd be I think everyone's waiting on a true Catholic Carr playoff game where both teams are healthy. The last time they played in the playoffs, they weren't Carr. The quarterback AJ Samuel was not 100%.
Yeah,
he was playing hurt. Because he had a pretty bad. I think he had a pretty bad finger injury or whatever, and he was basically playing hurt. So I just want to see. I think people want to see a fully healthy game between two of the top programs in the last 10 years. If you think about what Catholic and Carr have both accomplished in a very similar amount of time.
Right, and I think we talked about before we move on to our final game to talk about tonight. But we've seen that playoff game and maybe quarterfinal semis. That game has to be in the Superdome. See Catholic against Carr. I mean, that now.
Well, a lot of things have to play out right now.
Yeah, a lot of things have to play out.
Like 4 or
Still a
5,
lot of
so
great teams.
they're gonna play each other in the semifinals, but I want to see them in the dome. That's
Oh yeah,
not
yeah,
the same thing.
for sure, exactly. And then Grant, we're going to wrap it up here with Franklin Parish and West Washita. That was a highly anticipated game up in North Louisiana as well. Franklin Parish, I mean, what a start to the season that they are having right now. And then West Washita, they're undefeated. So like, and then that was going to be one of the things about like a lot of times they did start undefeated, like 4-0, 5-0, but they would maybe struggle second half of the season. And this is an opportunity for them to really put that to bed and have a chance to really have a big win against Franklin Parish. But Adrian Burnett, I mean, I think he's one of my candidates right now for Coach of the Year for what he's doing at Franklin Parish. And Desiree and Ellis, if there's a bunch of like Louisiana high school football freaks and recruiting freaks right now, like Desiree and Ellis is a guy that you need to keep an eye out for next year for 2026. He is a special player for the Patriots. But Franklin Parish was able just to make a couple more plays to edge it out, 29-27. And make it another impressive win. They defeated Calvary Baptist earlier this year. This is this was once a 5A program, right, in West Washita, and they get a 29-27 win. This team for Franklin Parish, Grant, is in their win loss was to Washita Parish, and that was 51-47. So against a 5A really good team that took Ruston to the wire. So man, it seems like Franklin Parish has been more and more impressive by the minute.
Yeah, and actually, Coach Burnett actually hit me up on Twitter like a few days ago. It's like Desiree Ellis he's one of the top quarterbacks in the state and everything like that. And he's really trying to promote his program, and rightfully so. They've been playing some awesome football so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's been incredible to see that program grow. These last couple of years. I mean, last year they had a really good season, going to the quarterfinals, and also their kicker actually played in the Grand Bowl game last year. So they had a growing program for a while. Sarian Ellis is one of the top quarterbacks in the state. I don't know where scouts have him, whether he's a quarterback or an athlete. I don't know. That's not for me to decide.
Right.
But he's a phenomenal player when he has the ball in his hands, and that's what we do know. That was shown once again against West Washita. They picked up a huge win over a very good West Washita team. Franklin Parish is rolling. I believe are they in Division II select or non-select? It's confusing like how they do.
I'm gonna double check. But if I had to guess, I believe they're Division II non-select.
Yeah, but these schools go weird sometimes. But anyway, going back. While Jason's looking, I'm gonna continue what I have to say.
Sure.
But the Patriots, a lot of credit has to go to Coach Burnett and what he's done to this Franklin Parish team, and really, I think if they could keep continuing this play, they have a great shot, and not only competing to not only get a chance to play in the dome, but maybe even win a state title in the dome. But Jason, you figure it out.
So right now they're Division II non-select, and they're right now number 5 in the power rankings behind Lakeshore at 4. Talk about the North Shore. Yeah. Lakeshore at 4. You have Franklinton number 1, and then also in there sprinkled in you got Bell Chase, who you mentioned,
and then Letcher,
at number 2.
So and Division II is wide open. By the way, that's not a, what I'm saying, that's not I know it's not as stacked as Division I non-select to select, and the Division III select, and even Division IV select is looking really stacked as well. This Division II non-select, you had no idea
wide open
who's gonna win, right? Because the 13th seed might be just as good as the number 2 seed.
Yep.
We saw that with Opelousas
last year.
I think they beat the number 4, number 1, and number 2 seed back to back, and that was the team full. And now they're ranked as the number 13 seed, but they also had a lot of talent, a lot more talent than a lot of teams they played in the playoffs. So it's a wide open district. That's going to be the most fun to watch because there's a lot of good teams, but also it's not really, you don't really, okay, well, this team's going to go to the semifinals, or this team's going to go to the dome. You have no idea.
Because
you saw Northwest, who was the 22nd seed,
semifinals.
like literally went to the semifinals before they ultimately lost to Sicilia. So, I mean, this is a wide open bracket this year, and it will continue this season. It's wide open. There's not really a whole lot of separation from seeds 1 through 30. I'm not sure how many teams go to the playoffs in Division 2 non-select, but that's what I'm saying. It's wide open. Anybody has a shot. Everybody has a shot to win a state title in that division. Not because the teams are weaker. It's just because there's not really much separation between all those schools, and they all have a lot of talent.
Yeah, they do. I'm looking at some of the teams right now. I mean, Franklin Parish, we mentioned them. I already mentioned those teams ahead of them, but below them, I mean, Plaquemine, Iowa. That was one game we could have talked about. Now I'm just thinking about it, but they beat Leesville and like a blowout. I mean, but 62-27, I believe, was a big win for the Yellow Jackets, and I believe they held Xavier Ford to under 100 yards rushing in the game. So like that is accomplishment in itself. But yeah, Grant, that's another week in the books, week 6. So we're going to basically put this one to bed. As we're about to go to bed after this segment.
Well, I'm going to stay up a little longer. I want to finish typing this up real quick so it can be released in the morning. So I got a little feature article about LSU, and then of course we're going to both have to go to the press conference, and then So, but yeah, this is a big. It's going to be a pretty busy day for me just because I gotta have to plan everything out for the week. I don't know what game we're going to go to yet. I am leaning towards Brother Martin and Curtis. Mm-hmm. Although there may be a couple other, or it could be Walker and Archbishop. No idea yet. But I won't know. I won't know probably till about Tuesday. That's when the schedule gets released over at Crystal City Sports. But it's gonna be another. I know it's not gonna be the strongest of weeks. Week 7's. I really just maybe it's just down here in New Orleans. I'm not sure about everyone else. I haven't really.
Yeah, I think Baton Rouge. I know Catholic and Central is a big headline.
Yeah. I know Central Catholic are playing each other, but like I'm not sure about the rest of the day. But I know New Orleans right now, it's kind of like, I wouldn't say slim pickings, but it's just not. It's just a week. It's just not a week where a lot of marquee teams are playing. Sure. It's just one of those weeks, and that happens. It's not. And it could end up being a crazy weekend, right? So that's not to say it's not gonna be a crazy week. It's just right now there's not much marquee matches to pick, but a lot of things can happen on Friday nights, and we know that, Jace. We've seen it this year. But I gotta look at the schedule, so we can pick out our games that we have to talk about for week 7. Sure. So I mean, it should be fun. It's still gonna be fun. High school football in the States, fun. You don't know what the hell is gonna happen. It is absolute chaos. But so far so good. It's been a very fun year, and I'm enjoying it, Jace.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Grant. It's been a really fun year, man. And before we wrap up, anything you want to promote for Crescent City, River Sports Media, anything that you want to promote, Friday Nights on the Bayou, and anything you want to promote before we wrap up?
Yes. So yeah, of course, follow me on Twitter at Chachere Grant. Just go follow me, follow my work. There's a lot. I have a lot of good stuff coming out with high school football and college football as well with LSU. And then of course, Ruger Sports Media. Make sure to follow them. Actually, hold on. Oh, there it is, right there.
There it is.
But Ruger Sports Media. It's actually, that's the name right there across the screen with my name tag. So go follow Ruger Sports Media on all social media sites: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And then also make sure to go to my YouTube channel where me and Jace host Friday Nights on the Bayou, and subscribe and also share to people around the state, your friends, families, teachers, coworkers, you name it, and just a way to help everyone else grow. We all want to grow the brand, high school football in Louisiana, because I truly think it's the best in the country. Screw Texas, screw California, screw Georgia. Louisiana's the best, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna copy something from Jarrett Roser. Louisiana versus all y'all. I mean,
hell yeah.
Everybody.
I need to get a sweatshirt. I hope maybe I can get a discount from Jarrett.
Maybe get the media discount or something for that.
Maybe the media discount. I don't know. He's with On 3 now. He's with the Bengal Tigers.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a little bit too big for us now. He probably forgot about us, Jace.
Yeah, he's big time now. Yeah.
No, exactly. But no, seriously, no. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, congratulations.
Well earned. He's a great he's done a great job covering not only high school football in the state, but recruiting and college football as well. He was with Rivals, so it's now to see him back to covering LSU recruiting and LSU football, and LSU sports in particular. It's a good thing to see him back in that after he was kind of doing a lot of and now he's the GM of the Bootleggers. He's doing a lot of stuff like that. So it's good to see him back, like fully immersed with like LSU athletics.
Absolutely. Grant, keep up the good work, my man. And we want to catch up the next week. I'll join your show on Friday nights on the Bayou, and then we'll just make sure to follow us. Follow us at Gridiron Football as well. Make sure to go to gridironfootballusa.com. We got a lot of cool stuff on our website as well. I have high school, college football, NFL, some bowl game commit articles as well for Gridiron Football bowl game. So make sure to check us out, gridironfootballusa.com, and we'll see y'all next week on another exciting edition. It'll be week 7. Man, the season's flying by of Louisiana high school football. We'll see you all next week on Ball in the Boot.
Yes, sir.